people of Delta would like to recognize the sacrifice made by our armed forces and their families.
We do have a special military fair.
Now, with our Welcome Home fairs, active military personnel and their eligible family dependents can travel to USA for 70% less.
Albuquerque, New Mexico?
Is that your hometown?
That's right, ma'am. I'm going home.
Delta, we love to fly, and it shows.
When your office is 200,000 acres of rugged woodland, and you train the men who prevent anything from happening to it, you can't depend on just any deodorant. Men count on Old Spice deodorant. It works to prevent odor, to neutralize it before it starts. There's nothing else this effective with the clean classic scent of Old Spice.
You bet.
Old Spice deodorant, because prevention is the ultimate form of protection. Count on it.
Tim Cheveldae is playing in his first Stanley Cup game. He won 6 of his last 8 starts down the stretch.
The best-kept secret for St. Louis, their goaltenders. Vincent Riendeau starting tonight.
Dennis Morel, the referee, Bob Hodges, and Mark Vines, the linesman, and the off-ice officials from Minnesota. The Yzerman line starts, and so Rick Mahar with Rich Sutter and Bob Basson to counter for St. Louis. Harold Sneps and Mario Marois will be the defense, and Harold Sneps, a big favorite here, drops one to the corner. Back for it is Sutter, checked along the boards by Bob Probert. Jammed along by Bobby Dallas. Picked up by Rich Sutter. There'll be a penalty coming up, and it's going to be against Mahar for a hold. So the first power play of the game, just 31 seconds in, and it'll be coming up for the Red Wings.
And it is an uncharacteristic penalty for Rick Mahar. He is one of the most disciplined players that the Blues have, and that's something that Brian Sutter preaches about all the time. The matchups will look something like this as you take a look at this holding penalty to Rick Mahar. Brian Sutter will try and have either Rick Mahar at center against Yzerman or Ron Wilson. If Mahar is out there, it will be Sutter on one side, Basson on the other. That'll be a matchup we'll try and watch for.
Mahar watches as the Red Wings shift onto the power play. In the season series against St. Louis, they were just dreadful. 2 for 32. St. Louis penalty killing splendid. 30 of 32 kills for them.
You know, Mike, we don't have numbers on Detroit against other teams, but when you consider that they rank 19th on the power play out of 21 teams, I will just about guarantee you that they were 2 for 32 or worse against other teams as well. Simply not a very good power play. Better in the last month or two of the season, but still not powerful.
That's what Brian Murray had in mind when he got the man with the puck right now, Doug Crossman. He hands to Fedorov, and across for Yzerman. No change in the Red Wings up front. Probert and Steve Yzerman, the captain, are there. To the back it comes now for Fedorov. Across for Crossman. Banked one around that came to big Bob Probert. Probert chipped it across, took a hit. Yzerman got it to the back. Got it back once more from Crossman. Dumped over for Yzerman. Yzerman waits behind. Has Fedorov, and the shot went wide. Red Wings chase. 40 seconds gone in the power play. Along it comes for Yzerman, and they rule an offside pass. And so a neutral ice face-off to result.
One of the other keys to Detroit's power play has to be how it's going to match up against St. Louis's penalty killing. The Blues special teams excellent this year. They finished tied for third in their penalty killing unit. So going up against the 19th ranked power play, it would appear to be a mismatch. And I say appear because anybody that has ever watched the National Hockey League playoffs knows, even from watching the action in the other conference last night, that forget about the regular season. I mean, just crumple up all the paper, even though that's all we had to go off of today. Crumple it up and throw it away.
Well, the Red Wings were springboarding some of their hopes for this series in the last game played. They had not played the Blues since January before winning in here and solidly winning over the Blues in what that night turned out to be a mismatch. They held Brett Hull to just a couple of goals. Stoppage of play as the puck went off the linesman Bob Hodges and may have flicked out a play also at the St. Louis bench, and so play once again halted.
Boy, when you talk about the St. Louis Blues, you have to talk about their level of achievement, or at least their desire to achieve. We just had a shot of Rich Sutter. And Ron Caron and Brian Sutter will both tell you that they have tried to acquire people in the last year that cannot stand losing and that will not settle for anything other than winning. That's one of the reasons they went after Rich Sutter. They thought he was in that category.
Boy, there is great fire from that St. Louis Blues coach. It's interesting, your question of him today. When does he think he'll stop learning as a coach?
Boy, it was interesting. He said, the day I stop learning will be the day I'm in my grave. I mean, he plans to learn right up until death, and he probably will, but that's the attitude that you have to achieve year after year.
Puck flipped along to Rich Sutter. Chipped it back out. Half a minute to go on the power play. 2 minutes gone. First period of our game. Kevin Miller rattles one around the boards. Sean Burr checked off, but Carson retrieves to Racine for a drive save. Rebound. Kick back over to Lowry, and he can walk it back up for the Blues. Lowry crossing, defended away by Racine. Pucked out along by Butcher. He was walled by Burr. Pass too far, now gathered in by Fedorov. Checked by Wilson. Puck flipped back. Probert fresh from the bench to take it down to the last 5 seconds of the man advantage. Fedorov's pass knocked loose by Lowry. Lowry able to clear one back down. And out of play it goes, and out of the box comes Rick Mahar.
The Detroit Red Wings for this opening game have suited up. Brian Murray has suited up a dozen forwards. That is unusual. The Red Wings usually go with 7D and 11 forwards, but because of the food poisoning to Fedorov, that really kept him up all night. He's only had a couple of hours sleep, did not skate this morning. Brian Murray wonders how long he can go with Fedorov, so he has suited up an extra forward just in case.
Really is strange. He had some of the same food that the other players did last night, but he used mayonnaise, and Brian was speculating that the mayonnaise might have been tainted from perhaps not having been refrigerated properly. Harold Snepps out on defense with Mario Marois. Over 1,900 games between those two guys. A lot of experience, and the same true for Mahar. Put himself offside with that move. So the clock stopped with 17:19 to go in the first period. From the arena, no score.
Most guys would tell you they don't really think about their hair. Right. Personally, I think most guys want their hair to look good, as long as it's not a hassle. That's where Pert Plus comes in. It's a unique shampoo and conditioner in one. So, you get clean, more manageable hair than with plain shampoo, but without any extra work. That's Pert Plus. Hey, I admit it, I think about my hair. But it's not all I think about.
Wash and go with Pert Plus. Also in dandruff control.
Welcome to our New York studios. I'm Bob Papa. Throughout the course of the evening, we'll keep you posted on the North Stars and Blackhawks. Plus, we'll bring you the L.A. Kings later on tonight against Vancouver. Now we take you back to St. Louis. Here's Mike Emmerich and Bill Clement.
2 minutes, 41 seconds into the first period here. We have no score thus far. And we have yet to see Brett Hull in the game. Steve Yzerman on the draw with Mahar. Puck floated in deep by Bruce. Back to get it is Rick Green. Brindamore puts a good lick into him. Green, the veteran, stepped into by Bruce. Puck worked on back to him by Probert. So the Blues assert themselves physically. Another resounding hit from Brindamore. Puck behind, though, picked up by Yzerman and hurried along past the reach of Snepps and down. So Riendo out to sweep that one away. Riendo appeared in 7 of the 8 games in the season series against the Red Wings. Blues came up with 6 wins in that. Puck dumped back off again. Mahar up with it there. Tested by Probert. Bruce able to swing it back. Rick Zombo with a toss back along. That's cut off. Adam Oates with it. Has Hull in front, and it's swung out by Lowry. Got just a piece of it, but a penalty coming up against Detroit. The Blues will be on a power play when we come back. 16:32 to go in a scoreless first.
It was a simpler time. A time of hope and faith in the future. Blue jeans and white t-shirts were in. And people fell in love with the Miata. A ragtop, a 2-seater, a true roadster. Everyone seemed to be feeling pretty good. The Mazda Miata. It not only gives you a glimpse of the 90s, it takes you back as well.
At Chicago Stadium, the Blackhawks get one in a hurry. Chris Chelios with the shot. Dirk Graham will shovel the puck over to Jeremy Roenick. Only 13 seconds in, and Chicago will go ahead of Minnesota 1-0 in period 1.
So the Hawks strike first in Chicago. No one has struck just yet here, but the Blues go on the power play. Zombo a hold at 3:28. The season series, the Blues were 11 for 45 on the power play. Detroit scored 1 shorthanded goal on them, and Blues had a lot of trouble in yielding shorthanded goals, and Detroit was one of the strongest teams in the league at scoring while shorthanded. See if that's a possible development here as McCrimmon wraps one around. Sean Burr there matched up with Fedek in the penalty kill, and he's able to just hack that one out of the air and force Adam Oates back further. Oates and Quinn and Hull. And Hull carries, drops back to Brown and gets it again. Over for Jeff Brown. Big shot, and that turned aside by Cheveldae. Hull taps for Brindamore. In the way, McCrimmon. Quinn pokes it along. Brindamore back for Hull. Then to the point to Brown. Across it comes to Oates. Quinn with a fan. Brindamore with a shot, and Cheveldae blocked that with his body, and then it's ripped back down the ice by Dallas.
Detroit will undoubtedly try to force St. Louis. Very aggressive on this first kill. Wide open area in the slot, though, because they're being so aggressive high at the top of their box. See if St. Louis spots that and moves Brett Hull into that spot off the boards.
Kevin Miller up with this after his steal put one in front, and Riendo just seals for a moment and then tosses over to Gino Cavallini. So splendid penalty killing by Kevin Miller. On with this comes Jeff Brown. Half a minute to go on the Blues' first man advantage. To the glass it goes, and around for Doug Crossman. Plenty of room and some time. Dumps it off for Miller to hack it back down. Shift change brings out Yzerman up front. Fedorov comes out, and he's replaced by Habscheid. Green and Crossman, boy, a lot of experience in back. Hull tips to the corner. Gino Cavallini burrowing in, canceled out by Crossman. Hull sends it along for Jeff Brown. Brown right back for Hull again. 3 seconds left, power play. Hull to the point to Brown. Fires a shot that's tipped to the high glass. Habscheid able to control. Penalty time is up to Zombo, and it's sailed back down the ice. So now the teams have both had a crack on their power play and both failed. 14:20 left in the first period of this game. The Blues with 3 shots on goal. The Red Wings with 1, and neither team has scored. That bounced off Racine. The Blues have to wait to get onside, and then Bruce drops it back in. Racine and Brad McCrimmon, the defense now for the Red Wings. Jimmy Carson moving out. He's got Shuchuk along with him, and Fedek. This one dropped to the corner. Riendo, a weak toss. Gathered in, though, by Garth Butcher. Pumped away by Ron Wilson, and now controlled back out by Kimball. They can't get it by Racine. Ron Wilson just lays it on back for Scott Stevens, the captain. Then on for Bruce, but he can't get a pass in. Stevens tries, and the Red Wings stand up well, but now emerging with it is Wilson. Wipes out on the play, and trying to rag it through traffic is Gary Shuchuk out of Wisconsin, and he does. Turns this on for Jimmy Carson, moving along with Fedek. Fedek leaned on by Bruce and taken to the boards. So it's Butcher once more flipping out. Cheveldae taps this one. Zombo corrals it. So the Red Wings have held this splendid Blues offense down to just 3 shots. One of those was on the power play. Shovel shot by Zombo, and that one tipped to the seats by Bob Probert. Play is stopped, so let's pause for a regional break. You're watching the NHL, the Stanley Cup playoffs on Sports Channel.
1-900-896-2333. The Sports Channel America Sports Hotline for all the scores.
In a 3-2 overtime thriller.
For sports news.
Some big free agent signings today.
1-900-896-2333 is all you need. 24 hours a day, every day. Get late-breaking results and news on your favorite sport.
For basketball, press 1 now.
1-900-896-2333. The Sports Channel America Sports Hotline. Call today.
Yes, he has a green card, imported from Quebec. Crazy Claude, the trumpeter.
I still don't know why they call him crazy.
No. Off the face-off, this picked up, rolled along by Marois. To the back it comes now for Crossman. Turned one behind, but Rick Mahar up with that one. Dumped it back off, and Basson couldn't get it out. Marois could, and it's tipped back where Racine goes to play. Racine spins it ahead. Bob Probert tried to finesse through Marois. That didn't work. 12:45 to go in the first period of our game. We have no score here from the arena in St. Louis. Probert tangles up with Rich Sutter. Puck kicked on for Racine. Spins one across for Yzerman. With Yzerman breaking. Flipped one in front that was tipped wide by Yzerman. Dumped back around well away from Probert, and so Doug Crossman will go back. There'll be an icing call on this. The fans don't approve, but a face-off to come back in the St. Louis zone. Let's return to our studios.
With the North Stars on a 5-minute major and Chicago leading 1-0, the North Stars get one back. Mark Chinordi in front beats Ed Belfour in a scramble in front. It is 1-1 in period 1. Minnesota now leads 2-1 on another goal.
Well, how big will those major penalties be in the playoffs? I hope a series is not decided on one of them.
If that was a major that went with a game misconduct, you're only allowed 2 of those at playoff time. That's one of the major rule changes from the season when you get 3. McCrimmon with a blast, and that blocked off by Riendo. Blues control, but they give it away. Bobby Dallas tried to drill one, but it was blocked off by Oates. Here he comes with Hull. Hull the pass for Oates, but Dallas got just enough of it to slow the play down. Turned back beyond the reach of Burr. Brown across to Scott Stevens. Glasses one off. Lowry taken out by McCrimmon so that it can be controlled by the defense.
Right, this is one of the interesting matchups in this series. Brian Murray doesn't mind having Fedorov, his second most gifted offensive player, out there against the Adam Oates line. That means that really they're putting power against power.
Big shot by McCrimmon, save, rebound, and a save made by Riendo, as right at the front with that attempt was Kevin Miller. Tip back to the Detroit line. Bobby Dallas shifts from defense to offense and hands up to Miller. The drop to Dallas, fires one, blocked down by Stevens. On it comes for Oates. Hull has just now gotten up from a tumble to the ice, and so Fedorov up with it. Sergei Fedorov able to move in. He's got Fedek breaking. Fedorov tried to get to the front, but it was poked away by Brown. To the back it comes for a shot by Zombo, well off the mark, and it's chipped back off the glass by Hull. Out of play. Clock stopped. 11:13 to go in the first period of our game. No score from the arena in St. Louis.
Pour it on, work it out. If you're talking about sports, that's what it's all about. So pump it up, pump it out. Pour it on and work it out.
Because after working out, you don't want to fill up. So reach for the silver bullet, the one that won't slow you down.
Talking about Coors Light, it's the right beer now. Pour it on and work it out.
With Minnesota still on that 5-minute power play, Neil Broughton swoops in and fires a shot. Ed Belfour can't see it with the screen. Those 2 goals come 44 seconds apart. 2-1 Minnesota.
Well, we were viewing this from the distance of the other conference, saying, I don't think anybody in the Norris division would want to play Minnesota as hot as they were down the stretch, and conversely that they might want to choose Detroit because the Red Wings weren't going that well. Garpenloff a shot and a pad save made by Riendo. Boy, Minnesota's proving it out, connecting on their power play. Bob Gainey has done a tremendous job there this year. On now Brindamore, eyed up by Green, can't shake his way by. Green to the corner, held back by Brindamore. Pumped one along. Garpenloff stepped into by Quinn, but emerging with it is Habscheid. Pass tipped loose and sparred for by Potvin. Brought along by Habscheid. Down he went on a partial lean from Paul Cavallini, and the Blues are able to bring it back. Off Paul Cavallini, though, and Butcher can walk it back. The last 4 shots in the game thus far have come from Detroit sticks. 5 shots for the Red Wings, 3 for the Blues. They haven't had a shot since the power play expired, and that was 5 minutes and a half into the game. Yzerman a shot blocked away by a sliding Garth Butcher. Yzerman spars for it, but it's rolled along by Mahar. Headed for this is Basson. Bob Basson with a pass on the stick of Mahar, flicked away by Yves Racine, and it's dropped right back to him. Racine gave it up to Rich Sutter. Through Mahar. Doug Crossman flips one high beyond the reach of Sneps and into the crowd.
Well, the St. Louis Blues have home ice advantage in this series, but it probably wouldn't matter anyway. The St. Louis Blues had the #1 road record in the NHL. 10 games over 500 on the road. Chicago was second, so give credit to those 2 Norris Division teams. LA third and Boston fourth. They were the only 4 teams in the league above 500. The Detroit Red Wings do not have home ice advantage, and here is the problem facing them. The worst road records in the NHL belong to Detroit, Minnesota, and Vancouver, all tied at a winning percentage of 300. That doesn't cut it. The New Jersey Devils were fourth. The whole point of this, I think, is to point out that it really might not mean that much. New Jersey had gone 0-10-2 against all of the other Patriot Division teams that made the playoffs until last night. They won in Pittsburgh.
First rule, there aren't any rules. Sneps with a pass on now for Adam Oates. Just slings one in deep. We do not have Oates for a shot on goal, nor do we have Brett Hull with one thus far. Sneps flips off the shoulder of Lowry, and that one scooped up by Brad McCrimmon. Lowry has the only shot from that line, according to our unofficial count. Dallas on top of Brett Hull. Fans complaining about that as McCrimmon moves it ahead. Laid back off by Kevin Miller. Fedorov bounced out by Lowry. Offside call. Midway in the first period tonight from the arena in St. Louis, we have no score.
I like what shampoo and conditioner do for my hair, but I love what Pert Plus does for me. Pert Plus is a unique shampoo and conditioner in one, so my hair turns out just the way I like it. Clean, conditioned, looking great, but without the bother of 2 bottles. Imagine, hair I like without the fuss. That's what Pert Plus does for me. If only everything in my life was so simple.
Wash and go with Pert Plus. Also in dandruff control.
The coaching chess match has really started here already. Brian Sutter just pulled the Oates line off to get them away from the Fedorov line. I mentioned power against power. Well, on the Fedorov line is not only power, because Fedorov has 31 goals, Kevin Miller 22, Sean Burr 20. They can score, but Burr is their best defensive forward, and he is going to line up against Brett Hall. You talk about an all-around line, that's the Fedorov line.
Here is Mahar firing, and getting a piece of that was Chevrolet. Dumped along by Racine, but a weak one though. Rich Sutter comes right back after it, and Racine spirits one this time off of Yzerman's stick. Snaps, turns it back ahead on his backhand from Basson over to Mahar, but this is an offside play, and so again a neutralized faceoff will result.
I'm impressed with Detroit's play so far, Mike, but
too.
I think the only chance they have in this series, especially the games here, because they're not a good road team, they only won 8 times on the road. They have to keep the crowd out of this game. If the Blues get the lead, and if they get a big enough lead, I think you can forget about Detroit coming back. As long as the Red Wings can at least stay close, then they'll have a chance to keep the crowd out of the game, because the Red Wings will not be able to play from behind on the road.
Only 8 games this past year and only 8 wins on the road the year before. It has been since Gordie Howe was in Detroit that the team had a winning record away from home. Rich Sutter with a shot deflected away by Green. Yzerman moves in. Yzerman taps along for Green. That was in 1970.
I was going to say 1984. Well, didn't Gordie play it?
Ahead now is Probert. This one blocked off by Basson, but chopped from him by Probert. Scott Stevens pivots to play it and lost it. Steve Yzerman hustles ahead. Yzerman with a shovel shot, and it's blocked away by Riengo. Yzerman controls to Probert off his stick, but controlled by the Blues and brought back out by Bob Basson. Hands on for Quinn. Dumps to the corner. Rick Green patrolling there, and so is Chevrolet to drop it off the boards. Here's Jeff Brown with a shot. Pad stop made by Chevrolet, and it's cleared back out by Green. No icing. Red Wings make a change. Fedek comes out along with Carson and Shuchuk. That's the attack line for the Red Wings, who have just now gotten it again. Dallas, though, flipped it out of play, and so the clock stopped.
We gave a check mark in our edge to St. Louis. I think St. Louis's goaltending is the best kept secret. But one of the variables that can affect the outcome of a series all by itself is goaltending. Tim Chevrolet is making his first playoff start for the Detroit Red Wings. Really came on this season towards the end. But for most of the season, Detroit continued to search for the right combination.
Well, you just think of teams that weren't regarded that highly that did so well with goaltending in prior years. They may not have won the championship or even gotten to the finals, but they weren't predicted to go far, yet did. Names sometimes that aren't too familiar. Remember Steve Penny with Montreal. Butcher on back across, geared back out again by Paul Cavallini, dumped ahead, and Cavallini responds once more, but misses for David Bruce. So the Red Wings move again from defense to offense, though it's given up by Paul Cavallini. Carson stands up with Brett Hall. Puck across, chipped back in by Bruce. It's 2 guys, the leading 2 goal scorers in all of pro hockey. Bruce had 64 goals with the farm team in Peoria, and one with St. Louis for 65, and Hall with the 86 we mentioned. Offside call, 6:57 left in the opening period. If you're just joining us, 11 shots, 6 by the Red Wings, no score.
We talked to both coaches about their matchups and their theories on stopping the opposition. Brian Sutter was very quick to point out that it's not a matter of one guy stopping one guy. It's a 5-man defensive responsibility out there, and I think he's absolutely accurate. Certainly you can match player against player, but if the guys that are supposed to be the checkers don't have the support of everybody, and really the awareness of everybody, you have to pay so much attention when you are the other 4 people on the ice, when there's a shadow job going on, or an assignment, man-to-man assignment. situation going on. If you don't pay attention and you're one of the other 4 guys out there, then the shadowing and the man-to-man situations just don't match up very well. It's a 5-man deal.
Red Wings have their 5 out right now, being Brad McCrimmon along with Gallus. That one knocked down and slugged wide by Hall. Fedorov and Burr and Kevin Miller are the ones up front, and the big scoring line is out for St. Louis, but can't connect this time. Just getting up is Lowry, is moving back out is Fedorov. Fedorov moves along, eyed up by Butcher, tried to center, but Butcher said no. Burr swings it behind, picked up by Miller, to the back for McCrimmon, shot, he scores! Brad McCrimmon, and it may have been tipped en route by Sean Burr, but the Red Wings have gotten the first goal of the series.
The key for the Red Wings, we just talked about it, getting on the board, taking the crowd out of it. And remember, this is the Fedorov line out there against the Adam Oates line. So not only has Detroit so far stopped Adam Oates and his guys, Brett Hall especially, but now they've drawn first blood. Yeah, it looked like it was deflected. Adam Oates looked like he was lifting up his left leg. It may have deflected off his skate. It was a knuckler. It bounced in front of Riendo, and the Red Wings have what they came here to get first, and that is the lead.
13:37, the time of the goal by Brad McCrimmon. Will get the assist for you. Marois with a pass that is cut off by Sean Burr. Hall there, but Fedorov outreached him to cancel. Burr tried to feed ahead and will have a second crack at it. Stepped into by Oates. Burr fed it away, and Sneps takes over. With 6 minutes to go in the first period, Detroit has just scored to take a 1-0 lead. Marois to Sneps again. Shoveled wide of Cheveldae. Steve Yzerman to get it. Yzerman starting to wheel back out for the Red Wings. 4 50-goal seasons for Yzerman, including this most recent one. Sneps plays, but McCrimmon takes over. Then along for Yzerman. Moving on with Bob Probert. Able to shovel along for Yzerman. Looks over the traffic. Fans on one pass. Then it went off Yzerman, but he controls over for Green. Puck tipped out of play. Clock stopped. First period. Red Wings 1-0.
No, I just want to look at cars. Hey, did you know that the Mazda MPV made Car and Driver's 10 Best list? Oh, yeah? Second straight year. It's got a V6 engine. Great new luxury package, special paint, special wheels, power, everything. Look at all this leather. See? Look at all the space. It's got room for all our kids.
Oh, now I see. Well, I could just quit my job and chauffeur the kids.
Yeah.
The Mazda MPV Luxury Edition.
It just feels right. Get out of my car.
Last year's series opener between Minnesota and Chicago saw the North Stars win 2-1. We have 4 goals already in period number 1. Doug Wilson with a deflected shot, a power play goal, 2-2 in period 1.
Brad McCrimmon's goal came from Kevin Miller and Sean Burr at 13:37. Garpenloff moves in, worked over by Jeff Brown. Red Wings have had the balance of play in this period. They've outshot St. Louis 7-5, and they've done a great job of controlling the top line. Abscheid with a pass ahead now for Zombo, then across for Garpenloff. Deals it back in, around it comes for Riendo. Brown able to finesse a pass back across for Gino Cavallini, then on for Darren Kimball. Kimball's pass and Ron Wilson wedged out by Zombo. Probert goes back, given a hit by Gino Cavallini. Then a good hit by Zombo on Cavallini. Two aside, battle for the puck. Probert trying to turn away with it. Stepped into by Wilson, still able to turn. Finally, Bob Probert gets control, but his pass misfires for Potvin. Right back in comes Paul Cavallini and wraps one off a glass support. Popped back in front. Potvin to get it, and he drills it all the way back down. The Red Wings have iced it. Clock stopped. 4:12 to go. First period. 1 goal by Brad McCrimmon.
10 years. His hair is a little thinner.
I don't remember her looking so beautiful.
Not bad. For an ex-jock. Hello, stranger.
I'm hardly a stranger.
Well, you are late.
I know. You shouldn't have waited 10 years for this. Happy anniversary.
The Diamond Anniversary Band. Tell her you'd marry her all over again.
You sure can pick an appetizer.
You know, Bob Probert was one of the toughest guys ever to lace up a pair of skates. I don't think the Blues are going to go after him for a fight, but on the last shift, Gino Cavallini really ripped in him with 2 great body checks, so they're certainly not going to give him any extra room just because he's a tough guy. This is the playoffs.
Puck kick back to Racine. Racine, one of 10 first picks that the Red Wings have from their team and various ones in the lineup tonight. Saw the play just work back the other way, so Red Wings are able to make a shift change, and on the icing, the faceoff will come back near Cheveldae.
You know, Mike, we mentioned in our open that this is a mismatch on paper, but you have to remember one thing. The St. Louis Blues overachieved all season long, didn't they? Second best record in the NHL. There's not such a thing as a lazy step when you're playing for Brian Sutter and you are a member of the St. Louis Blues. It's not to say that Brian Murray doesn't try and instill the same work ethic in his guys, but they were in third place virtually all season long and had it in cruise control. So if any team has potential for a greater work ethic, more potential for improvement, all of those things which go with being in cruise control, it's Detroit. I mean, St. Louis, I think, has played to its potential all season long.
Yeah.
I'm not sure Detroit has.
Well, there's that comfort zone, I guess, after a while when you're in third place, as long as the Red Wings were, and they weren't really challenged by Minnesota, and they became so distant to St. Louis and Chicago that you can kind of put it in cruise.
Sure.
Butcher a shot. That one pinballed off a set of skates. Zombo tried to drop it along for Fedek, cut off by Brindamore. Butcher hurries a shot. That one snuffed right out. Left behind, though, by Potvin. Rolled along by Quinn and scooped up by Paul Cavallini. Cavallini with Brindamore breaking. Fires a rocket, blocked down by Cheveldae. Rebound, a save. Rebound by Bruce, and it trickled wide. Then Bruce knocked flying, and a penalty coming up to Detroit. So the Blues will get a chance on their power play to even the score.
It may have gone unnoticed at real speed, but Tim Cheveldae made an outstanding toe save. Paul Cavallini's shot handcuffed him. He couldn't control the rebound. There it is right there. The toe save on Brindamore, who was trying to go wide. Bruce was on the backhand, trying for the rebound when Bob Probert took him out from behind. So the Blues are back on the power. Watch for St. Louis to do this often. Just get it to the net. It's a basic approach, and then have your forwards drive for the rebound. Many teams in the NHL could take a lesson from the Blues in that department. It is a basic approach, but it is an effective approach.
Probert interference at 16:30. Thundering ovation for the Blues that are out on the power play right now. With Hull on the left side, Brindamore on the right, Dan Quinn at center. They move Oates back to the right point, and Jeff Brown will be on the left. Flicked along for Brent Fedek. Fedek chopped one that went off of Brown, but picked up by Bobby Dallas and lifted back out. 3 minutes, 15 seconds to go in the first. If you're just joining us, Detroit ahead in the game, 1-0. St. Louis on its second power play. 20 seconds into it as Oates scoops one ahead for Brindamore. Angles one to the Hall corner, but he was jolted by Dallas. The feed is for Dallas from Cheveldae. Up though it came for Dan Quinn. Spiked back to the corner. Brindamore tests with Burr. Brindamore stood up by Dallas. Kicks it along for Brett Hull. Hull looks to the point and then plays it there. Off the stick of Brown. And hurriedly playing his Oates and put it right into Brent Fedek. Oates again. McCrimmon flipped it back down. Boy, if the Red Wings had a game plan in how they wanted the first period to go, and you have hopes as you enter a series, well, it's 100% the way they'd want it. They're ahead in the game. They seem to have St. Louis reeling a bit. St. Louis maybe not showing the confidence they normally do, but that can change. Here's Hull, along for Quinn, to the back to Oates, across to Brown. Oates once more, moves in, cranks a shot, pad stop, Cheveldae, and it's forked away back out by Zombo, and here come the Red Wings. Fedorov moving in with Kevin Miller, to Miller, back for Fedorov, still trying to control, and all this time, more seconds go off the penalty clock. Down to the last 35. Fedorov still keeps it tangled back in the Blues' end before it's retrieved by Oates. Oates had man's ahead for Gino Cavallini. Watch and match stride for stride by Zombo. It's turned along and Oates guides it back for Paul Cavallini. Has to hurry and hacks one into Racine. Paul Cavallini again to Hull. Wrist shot blocked down by Zombo. And it's trapped underneath Zombo for a moment. Then he was able to flip one. Paul Cavallini keeps across to Stevens. Tried to turn one on the stick of Brett Hull. Then back for Cavallini. A shot deflected. Save made by Cheveldae. And he hangs on with 2 seconds to go on the power play.
It looked for a moment as if the St. Louis Blues were going to waste the only chance they were going to get on the power play. Scott Stevens decided to pass instead of shooting, but the Blues got the puck back right away. And finally, a one-time shot by Paul Cavallini was deflected, handcuffed Cheveldae, and you can see what the Red Wings are doing. Their 2 defensemen are playing up even past that forward that's parked in front of Cheveldae. And a little earlier, that save by Tim Cheveldae from the shot of Adam Oates. Adam Oates took a look, Couldn't find Brett Hall, decided to shoot. And on the shorthanded 2-on-1, Kevin Miller and Fedorov really got crossed up. They both have excellent speed. I think Miller assumed that Fedorov was going to get the puck up to him. They ended up almost colliding, and their 2-on-1 just bogged down and got nowhere.
Boy, Kevin Miller has been a splendid show thus far for Detroit. He has an assist, but he's been involved in some of the key plays Detroit has made defensively as well. Puck chopped by Rich Sutter, and that goes wide. Jammed along by Racine. Sent further by Yzerbark, kept alive by Paul Cavallini, but turned right over near the Red Wings. Rich Sutter emerges with it, wedged off by Yzerbark. Rich Sutter trying to stagger free. Sutter wants to get for the backhander, can't. Butcher a shot, hit the outside of the goal. Teams are at even strength. 1:05 to go in the first period. Puck trapped underneath a couple of fallen players. And with the Red Wings ahead in the game, 1-0, another face-off to occur near Cheveldae.
Boy, one thing the St. Louis Blues have is a bunch of guys that don't mind playing in the corners. Bob Basson just about ate up Yves Racine on that last sequence. If Racine hadn't fallen on top of him, Basson most likely would have walked out. But when you put Basson and Rich Sutter on the same line, how would you like to be a defenseman going into the corners with those guys? Man, oh man, they're not that big. And St. Louis up front isn't that big when you take them man for man. But boy, oh boy, when it comes to heart, they've got motors that drive these guys that are the size of, about the size of this building.
Is it hard to shadow a guy?
It's not hard as an individual to shadow a guy, but to be successful as a team, I really think it's difficult. The other assignments are tough, and it's really determined. You know, one of the problems is how you come back into your own end. When we get a chance, we'll talk about it a little further. It's not tough individually if you can skate to shadow a guy, but to shut down a superstar as a team, it's difficult even if you have a man shadowing him.
Play stop, 50 seconds to go in this opening period. Keeping you updated tonight on activity from Chicago, Minnesota, and the Blackhawks knotted up there, and here the Red Wings are ahead 1-0 with 50 seconds to go in the first period.
You know, the defensive coverages in your zone are usually determined by the order in which you arrive back in your zone. The first guy back usually goes back in deep. Well, let's assume the guy shadowing the superstar comes back into the zone as well, and the superstar goes back in deep. Well, the shadow goes back in deep with them. But you've already got a forward back in there, so you combine those two forwards with the two defensemen.
Oh, yeah.
You've got four guys back in deep. Meanwhile, offensively, the attackers have 2 point men. There's only one guy out there to watch the point men. So that's one of the problems right there.
Good point. Puck kicked along. Scott Stevens up with it. Plays it along for Lowry. Lowry wedged there by Brad McCrimmon. Leaned on. Lowry tries to kick it behind. To the corner they go. Lowry dogged by McCrimmon again, given a good hit by Sean Burr, and the Red Wings able to emerge. McCrimmon just lays it back in. Rainbow sets it up now for Jeff Brown. Brown with a pass along for Hall that skipped back for Fedek. Green turned it in. Delayed offside is wiped as the Blues move it out. And the seconds go off the clock to end the period. Hall unable to get a shot away at the horn, and that's the story of the first period, too. That line held down by the Red Wings.
It's a 7-game series, potentially, and we've only seen one period, but boy, did it belong to the Detroit Red Wings. I thought they accomplished a lot. They looked like a confident hockey team, and as a result, they had the lead.
McCrimmon got that lead from Miller and Burr at 13:37. Shots on goal in the period for the Blues 10, for the Red Wings 7. Let's pause now for this regional break. You're watching the Stanley Cup playoffs on Sports Channel.
We went to the fight capital of the world and asked the fans, who's the greatest heavyweight ever?
By far, it's Muhammad Ali. Ripping punches.
1920s constructed for a national dairy. 1920s constructed for a national dairy convention. Then they started to get hockey teams in here. They've had one almost every year ever since, and 24 years straight in the NHL. No carryover penalties or power plays into the second period.
A lot of ice time for some of the key participants in this hockey game. Steve Yzerman, believe it or not, played over a dozen minutes in the first period. Periods are 20 minutes long. Brett Hall, in spite of the fact that he didn't get out there for the first, well, almost 3 minutes of the first period, logged over half of the period in ice time. 10 minutes and 21 seconds for him.
Lowry, no shots. Adam Oates one, Brett Hall none in the first period. Puck to the back, a shot, tipped loose in front, off of Cheveldae. Loose puck kicked back out in front by the defense of McCrimmon. Comes back to Stevens, hurries it across to Butcher. Shovel shot, stick loose by Cheveldae. Rebound on the backhand. Mahar's shot was blocked, and a cross-checking penalty coming up.
Well, that's how the Blues will have success against Detroit. Get it to the net and drive for the rebounds. The Red Wings have picked up just about all of their penalties so far in this game, having to contend with the Blues forwards in front. A cross-checking call again. Cheveldae with a good save on one of those shots there. It was deflected and this bounced to him, but because it was a changeup, well, it really fooled him and he had to go down on the play. Bobby Dallas in front trying to move Bob Basson out of the way. It looks like Brad McCrimmon is the guy that picked up the penalty. There, I still haven't seen the cross-check. I mean, it was Dallas that moved Basson out. It doesn't matter. St. Louis Blues on the power.
I think it may have been out of this, that shot by Butcher.
Oh, there it is. Oh, yeah. I guess that's a legitimate cross-check. Took us a while to get to it, but you saw it.
Third power play of the game for the Blues. Puck skipped back across for Brent Fedek, and he drills one that's kept by Oates. Good keep there. Oates pivots and looks for Paul Cavallini, but dishes back off to the opposite side. Brind'Amour turns it for Oates. In front for Hall, spiked away from him by Fedek. Cavallini to the back to Oates, then Paul Cavallini again. Hall wanted the one-timer. Cavallini sets it up for him, and he drilled the shot wide. Oates misses for Paul Cavallini, and so the Blues must drop back. Yeah, you could see the first time it was just too stiff a pass for him, and so they just set it up for him once more. He led the league in power play goals, too. 29 of them. Paul Cavallini, big shot, went wide. Rebound right back in front, picked up by Zombo, and then walked back out by Fedorov. Hands it back over for the toss back in by Sean Burr. Shift change. Kevin Miller comes out. Dallas and Crossman also out shorthanded for Detroit. They've killed half of the third Blues power play as Gino Cavallini hands over for Oates. Oates to Quinn. Flips one in front. Tipped loose by Gino Cavallini. Can't control. It's sent away by Crossman. Turned by Hall for Stevens' shot, and that one was tipped and didn't miss by much. Sped across off Fedorov. Knocked loose in front. Backhander save. Another save made by Cheveldae. As the Blues are getting a lot more going on this one, but they have yet to score.
There is no question that if the St. Louis Blues get enough power play time, they are going to end up with their chances on Tim Cheveldae. Quick puck movement has to be something the Blues pay attention to now because the Red Wings are being so aggressive on their kill. And again, the Red Wings D are standing out in front of the guy that is in front. This time it was Gino Cavallini. That's the reason he was able to get a rebound shot. So Detroit, when their forwards are aggressive up high, their D-men are also moving up on the play to take away any room in the middle of the ice, but they're leaving a space behind them for the Blues forwards to get in behind them, and that's when the point shot comes, gets in behind them, and poses a problem for them when they all move up as a unit.
It's the one time that you, most times, will go to a perfect zone when you're killing off a penalty like that. Four-man defensive box isn't set up yet. Scott Stevens controlling back across for Paul Cavallini. Stevens once more works it for Hall. Brett Hall just controls, draws a Red Wing to him. That's Miller. Stevens a drive. That deflected away by Zombo. Oates again with 25 seconds to go on the power play to Paul Cavallini. Then once again to Oates, creeping into Stevens. They flip it for him, and he was able to tip it out of the air. Then tried to steam one to the net, but Zombo denied him. Cleared but not out. Good keep by Paul Cavallini across to Oates. Sets up Hall, and he got the glass with the ripper. Rebound in front, and that went off the stick of Dallas and is cleared back down by the Red Wings. Oh.
You know, if there was ever a time that Brett Hull tried to shoot the puck too hard, that was it. He simply lost control with it, but he wanted to jam that one through the back of the net, through the boards, and out into the parking lot.
Stevens a pass onto the turning stick of Hall. Nice hand off to Oates. Oates trying to go in. Poke checked away by Cheveldae. Another shot went off Cheveldae and may have also caught the post. Oh, the Blues have really cranked it up here in the second, but a steal now by Yzerman. Moving it back out. Yzerman gets help from Yzerman to step ahead. Steve Yzerman swung one in front. Paul Cavallini denied that one. Stevens with a pass that clicked back deep. The way that the Blues turned it up, you'd have to think that the Red Wings want to slow it back down again. Get the tempo slackened. Puck thrown in front. Worked ahead by Green. That went off of Bob Probert and gathered in by Mahar. Hands back for Harold Snepps. Marois chips it back ahead to Rich Sutter. Moving on with Mahar. He just dumped one to the corner. Mahar goes in along with Doug Crossman. Along the boards, Basson able to walk away, but lost it. Shoveled right back by Green. Then on for Yzerman once again. Hands it across for the carry by Doug Crossman. Lifts one to the corner. Shift change on for the Red Wings. Basson has a fight on his hands with Probert, but was able to get it to Snepps. Dumped back out again, and the Red Wings will just go back to play. 16:20 to go in the second period of our game tonight from the arena in St. Louis. The Red Wings have the lead on the Blues, 1-0 on a goal by Brad McCrimmon in the latter stages of the first period. Puck brushed along by Quinn. Yzerman in, given a good lick by Sneps. Mario Marois on defense, flips this one ahead for the carry back out by Bruce. Bruce watched by Zombo, fires a shot that's juggled by Cheveldae. Zombo right there to help, though, dumped it off, and Stevens waiting. Big shot is turned aside by Cheveldae. Played along by Garth Butcher a second time, and Racine denies both times and turns it back for Stevens to chase. Scott Stevens away from Jimmy Carson, who's not seen that much ice time thus far. Ahead up the wing it comes for Quinn. Cranks a shot, and that one flexed away by Cheveldae. Zombo able to get away from one check, then turns it along for Fedek off the referee's skates. Bruce a shot. At a half-speeder that's tipped by Cheveldae. Dug out behind by Quinn. Has a man in front. Bruce with a shot that went wide. Along now for Butcher. One-timer, and that picked off in front by Racine and started ahead. It is Potvin. Able to shake by Scott Stevens. Potvin to the corner. Big hit on him by Butcher. Flipped along by Brindamore. Starts it ahead with a pass across for Bruce. Great action here in the second period from the arena in St. Louis. The visiting Detroit Red Wings ahead 1-0. Puck tapped loose by Brad McCrimmon. Tries to pull away from the swat of Gino Cavallini, and then Cavallini went tumbling as the Blues are able to drill it right back in. This one swirled to McCrimmon, who lifted it back out, but also out of play, and the clock stopped. 14:49 to go in the second.
Extra strength Rolaids antacid. Stronger because it has more calcium carbonate, more than any Tums tablet, and salt-free. More calcium carbonate and salt-free. This settles it once and for all.
I used to have dandruff, so I tried Head and Shoulders. Then I tried Selsun Blue. Blue is better.
Selsun Blue relieves dandruff flaking better than Head and Shoulders, and doctors recommend it more than Head and Shoulders, Denerex, and Tegrin.
Blue is better.
Selsun Blue.
There is some controversy in Chicago. Brian Bello sends the puck over to Mark Tenorti, who beats Ed Belfour. But watch on the left of your screen. Brian Propp is called for a slash on goalie Ed Belfour. No goal, 2-2 after one.
Tell you one thing, the Minnesota North Stars cannot afford to have any goals called back against Chicago. The Minnesota North Stars have become an overachieving team down the stretch. That's why everybody respects them. They're not a gifted offensive team. They got to score against Chicago.
It's been all St. Louis thus far in the second. 10 shots have been fired on net, and all of them off blue sticks. Fedorov connects back ahead. Bobby Dallas rolled one, kept by Rick Wilson. Missed for Gino Cavallini with the pass, but he recovers and sent one across the goal mouth wide. Now brought back up by Burr. Burr along with Kevin Miller, and the pass missed for him. Paul Cavallini back patrolling on defense, away from the hook reach of Burr, and around for Mario Marois. Marois flipped one that went off of Dallas. Coming across is Miller, and Miller just brushes it back in. And again, the Red Wings make a change. Zombo and Green to be the defense. It is Wilson with Gino Cavallini. Brett Hull watching from the bench, but now he hops over the boards on that dump in. Oates and Lowry have joined him. And so the big scorers for the St. Louis Blues are out. They have failed to put one past Tim Cheveldae yet. They have 20 shots to the Red Wings 7. Zombo goes back to take the tap from Cheveldae, away from Lowry. Guides it up for Yzerman. Dumps it off for Yzerman. It's a 2-on-2. Yzerman has Fedek breaking. Yzerman crosses. A shot blocked down by Riendo, and the rebound picked up by Yzerman. Yzerman finessed a half-hearted pass in front. Fedek can't get it. Lifted off by Brown. Racine tied up. Red Wings dump back in. We welcome our viewers in Canada on TSN, the Sports Network. Joining us here at the arena in St. Louis, along with Bill Clement, Mike Emmerich, 1-0, the Red Wings ahead. Midway in the second period of our game. The lone goal coming from Brad McCrimmon in the first period. Yzerman lays this one along for Bob Probert. Probert stepped in two from behind, casually walks away to Yzerman. Out in front, backhander, score! Yzerman! And it's 2-0, the Red Wings lead.
Here is the big obstacle for the St. Louis Blues. They have literally crushed the Detroit Red Wings in this period in every aspect except on the scoreboard. You can't keep greatness down. Steve Yzerman can beat you by himself if you give him a chance to, and he had too much time behind the net. One thing Detroit knows about St. Louis, as the entire hockey world knows, they don't go away. I mean, you cannot beat their spirit. So St. Louis had come out in this period and dominated Detroit. but also the Blues know about Detroit. They have star quality players. One is Fedorov, the other one is Yzerman, and Brian Murray's guys have a 2-0 lead on the strength of their star players right now.
The big power forward, Bob Probert, came up with the primary assist on Yzerman's goal at 7:08. And so the Red Wings are up 2-0, and Probert shovels another one that goes wide, picked up by Shewchuk and dubbed to the front. Probert couldn't get to it. Tapped loose, but brought on now by Bruce. David Bruce ahead. Has a man, Brind'Amour, and gives to him. Shovel shot rocketed wide, right past the ear of Cheveldae and off the glass back down. Shewchuk heads back. Garth Butcher going back too. They cancel one another, but Paul Cavallini is there. Brind'Amour brings it back for the Blues, handing back on for Bruce. Eyed up by Doug Crossman. Bruce and Crossman test in the corner. Bruce looking for a pass, doesn't have one. Crossman instead just floats it back out. Potvin trying to get it there and is able to guide it back in deep. Marois takes the tap from Riendeau. Only one assist on that Yzerman goal. That came from Probert at 7:08.
Mike, we had talked in the first period about the Red Wings taking the crowd out of the game. Did you notice how quiet it got in here when the Red Wings scored their second goal? The crowd had come alive. The Blues had 10 shots. Detroit didn't have any in the period at one point, and the crowd was really in the game. Now they're out of the game, and that has to be one of the keys the Red Wings have to try and continue to exploit.
Racine takes the tap from Cheveldae. The Hall line was out. Adam Oates is still there, and Hall remains out as this guided along by Racine. Kevin Miller just flips it ahead. Waving at it was Burr, but Harold Sneps will go back to get it. Sneps just fires it across. Jeff Brown returns over for Gino Cavallini. Oates ahead with him. Cavallini surrounded by red and white. Puck poked through, but picked up now by Hall. Scoots back, but to get control, the Blues have to play in neutral ice.
You know what's interesting about this period, too, Mike, is that St. Louis's pressure really hasn't come from the Hall and Oates line. It's come from other lines. Dan Quinn's line, more specifically.
Good point. Cheveldae flips one that is knocked loose by Fedorov, but controlled from him by Stevens. Right back on comes Fedorov. Big drive deflected to the glass by Riendeau. In deep, Burr took a hard hit, jammed one off the back of the goal. Blues able to lift it along, but a keep by Crossman. And again, the pressure applied to St. Louis. Jeff Brown taps one that Stevens takes. The Blues with 11 shots in the period, and the Red Wings with 2, but they scored on one of them. This one played to the high stick of Fedorov, and the clock stopped. 10:35 to go in the second. It's the Red Wings 2 and the Blues nothing.
And you're out all night long playing around.
Playing, Mama, playing.
Now you're always on the streets.
On the road, Mama, on the road.
Hanging out with that bad crowd.
They're called the bad boys.
Now you say you're gonna work it out.
Work out, Mama. I'm going to work out.
Mama, I'll be okay. Got my gel.
Who is Jill?
My Asics gel.
Asics gel cross trainers.
Isaiah, don't forget your shoes.
Steve Yzerman is out for the Red Wings, so Rick Mahar out to defend against him. Yzerman and McCrimmon the goal scorers in our game tonight. The Red Wings have the lead 2-0 as it's pitched work to the corner by Yzerman. Back to get it, Paul Cavallini. Floats it along, and darting to it is Brent Feddick. Puts the big hit on Rich Sutter. Mahar there to take, though, and Mahar just flips one that'll be gathered in by Paul Cavallini. Blues trying to get a measure of control here. They've certainly had the territorial control in this second period. They really turned their game up a notch, but it has not succeeded in getting a goal on the board. Cheveldae with a mishandle behind, then recovers to clear it back off. Yzerman there to cut off Garth Butcher. Puck loose, and Crossman able to nudge it further. So Mahar will take over and hand over for Paul Cavallini again. Played it along for Sutter, slugs it around the wall. Cheveldae sets it up again. Little tap along for Feddick. Feddick dumped it behind. Rick Green there to get it. Tipped away by Wilson. Hooked ahead for Yzerman. Spun it back out. Took a hit and went down. The Blues give chase once more. So far, it's just like the game video that they had envisioned, and also the game that they played here, the last game in the regular season. Won by the Red Wings 4-1. Puck back now to Marois. Across for Darren Kimball. Hands it over for Basson. Floats one to the corner. Jimmy Carson back. Cancels with Wilson, so it's Bob Probert taking over. Clock ticks down to 9:10 to go. Lowry a shot across the goal mouth wide, and Marois has to go back to retrieve. Mario Marois patrolling. Carson, Shewchuk, and Probert, the line that Brian Murray has out now. Wilson shoveling it ahead. Lowry just leaned down by Shewchuk. Fans want a penalty. Dennis Morrell does not. Off it comes for Rick Wilson. Matched by Dallas. Floated away by Bobby Dallas, and so Sneps will go back.
You know, the longer this game moves along without Brett Hall and Adam Oates figuring in the scoring, because Detroit's done an excellent job on them so far, the Blues are going to have to get their goals from someplace else. They're going to have to look to the Dan Quinn line #1, but they could sure use a goal from a line like Ron Wilson's line that's out there, or for that matter, Rick Mahar's line when he is out there against Yzerman.
Nice little pass by Miller, trying to turn and doing it as Fedorov crosses to the front, and a rising shot got the glass. Now it's Berg given a hit by Lowry, but keeps moving. So it is taken by the third man, and that's Brown. Down went Burr. Off will come Lowry, and the Red Wings with a 2-0 lead. We'll have a power play when we come back. You're watching the NHL on Sports Channel.
Planning. Where'd I get the capital to start this business with my daughter? By investing for the long haul. And forget full commission brokers. I called Charles Schwab. Munis, mutual funds, blue chips, and I save plenty with Schwab's low commissions. Every day I tell my daughter, think long term. Make your own decisions. Be your own man.
For a free Schwab Fact Kit, call toll-free 800-841-0300.
Well, the unsung hero on this St. Louis Blues team may be Dave Lowry, but he's picked up a penalty. Fedorov, though, well, there's a great look at Fedorov's ability, what he can do in one-on-one situations. He's shot wide. Dave Lowry has taken a holding penalty, though, at 11:46 of the second period.
Yzerman, the first one to this. Hands it back on the point. Across it comes to Doug Crossman. Looks again. Fedorov directing some traffic at the other point. Yzerman to Yzerman. He scores! Steve Yzerman on the power play, and the Red Wings have the lead in the game 3-0.
I talked about the St. Louis Blues goaltending situation as being really the best kept secret in the National Hockey League. Vincent Riendo couldn't do anything on this play. Steve Yzerman is hit for 2 in the second period. This one from the slot. That had to be so perfectly executed, and you could see how many St. Louis Blues players are around him. Look at him. I mean, Yzerman is right dead center in the middle. Yzerman had to just lay it out for him perfectly, and Yzerman snapped it home. Riendo looked like he was going down and beat him low between the legs. Believe it or not, 3-0 here. Detroit, 7:59 to go in the second period.
This one turned back down. Cheveldae tips back over to Bobby Dallas. Dallas scooped one ahead. Scott Stevens kept it alive. Miller floats it back out. Jeff Brown hacks it back around. It's not deadly quiet here. There's a buzz going through the crowd now, and that's even more ominous than the silence before. Brett Hall flipped one out in front, tangled in skates, but shoveled along by Miller. Little tip by Fedorov didn't work. Gino Cavallini along for Oates, who dumped it behind. Brad McCrimmon around to get it. Jabbed loose by Hall. Gino Cavallini wedged out by Dallas. Got some help from Fedorov, and Fedorov is able to turn it loose back out. Boy, Fedorov's shown some pretty good spirit for being a guy sidelined today from the morning skate by food poisoning. That one turned right on goal, and then Burr's rebound was on goal, and Riendo hangs on. David, 3 stones. Goliath, zip.
I couldn't raise the money to save the orphanage. Guess I'm a failure.
Larry Milligan from Wall Street. I've invested in their future.
All you needed was some faith and friends.
In the movies, happy endings are easy, but in the real world, they take solid planning. So for peace of mind, investment advice are the home of your dreams. Come to the companies of the Prudential and build your future on the rock.
We have mentioned the play of the Fedorov line for Detroit in this hockey game, and I think we have to continue to point out the significant fact is that they are playing against the best 1-2 punch in the National Hockey League in a defensive sense. They're trying to stop Hull and Oates. Brett Hull, second in scoring in the NHL, overall points, 86 goals. Adam Oates, the number 3 scorer behind Gretzky and Hull, and Fedorov's line has really dominated them.
Hull just misfired on the pass and looked right up to the ceiling. Cavallini, a shot knocked down. Rebound, Lowry, and popped it high and wide. Out in front, Hull scores!
Well, Goliath has just come through with a stone of his own. No sooner had I mentioned the Fedorov line dominating Brett Hull, Dave Lowry, and Adam Oates Then the Oates line clicks. Adam Oates paid the price, took a hit behind, moved it out to Brett Hull. You can't leave him open in those situations. You can say what you want about covering Brett Hull up ice, but Zombo has him, falls, really lets him go. At this point, you pick up the replay, nobody has turned around to pick up Brett Hull. When Oates ends up behind the net, it has to trigger into your brain immediately. Somebody turn around and find Brett Hull. When you don't, that's what happens. And boy, it happened 86 times this hockey season. So the Blues have closed, 3-1 Detroit.
Boy, when you're watching him, margin for error is less than a second. I mean, it's a microsecond. It's so quick.
And nobody releases the puck like Brett Hull. Nobody.
Yzerbark and Crossman, the assists on Yzerman's second of the night on the power play at 12:01. Then at 13:10, Hull from Oates and Lowry. McCrimmon tips one off, picked up by Rich Sutter. Stepped into by Garpenloff. Sutter and Garpenloff tie up, and Basson able to walk away. Centering pass knocked loose by McCrimmon. Rich Sutter tried to turn it back. The Red Wings took over. Yzerbark lays it off for Steve Yzerman. Wedged off by Butcher, though. Yzerman trying to pull free and tapped it to the boards, then went to get it. Still trying to finesse his way by when he was hit by a couple of Blues. Tremendous finesse moves continually by Steve Yzerman, who has a couple in this one tonight. Paul Cavallini unable to get by Dallas, flicked it back out, and Rich Sutter takes over, turning it along for Basson, chopped over for Quinn, moves in and fires off of Cheveldae, rebound, Basson with it, couldn't slot it to Rich Sutter as he was checked off by Crossman. Yzerman once more, able to tip it back out. Harold Sneps gathers it in there, jamming one back on to Dan Quinn. 5:45 to go in the second, 3-1 Detroit. Quinn pivots, a lot of traffic as the Blues are making a change. Laid around for Doug Crossman, right after to smoke him out as Bruce. Puck given up to Harold Sneps. Sneps sent one well wide. A rounded kick for Yzerman. He's got a man breaking Yzerbark, but the pass came right to Marois. Sneps there, flips it back. Crossman just chips it back out again, and so Marois will go to gather. Pass on the money for Dan Quinn. The drop to Brindamore. Brindamore creeping right in, and that denied by a good sweep. Back out from Shuchuk. Headed back as Sneps, and Shuchuk right on him. Harold Sneps dropped one off the boards. Quinn there for the read. Tips it back further. Zombo tried, but Brindamore prevailed. Then over for Marois. Checked from behind by Shuchuk, and the puck to the seats. 5 minutes and 4 seconds to go in the second. Detroit leading in St. Louis 3-1.
My feet are so sweaty and smelly.
Here's why. Your feet have more sweat glands than any other part of your body. They need super drying Odor Eaters foot powder. Look, you'd need 25 cans of talc to match the drying strength of just one Odor Eaters powder. It can absorb 25 times more wetness.
Wow, it even keeps my feet dry. And no more smell.
Odor Eaters foot powder from the makers of Odor Eaters insoles with the world's most powerful odor destroyer.
Oates and Hull back out. Bill, I have a question. Now, what would prevent Hull from just going and standing next to another Red Wing who's not his shadow and trying to outman that way?
That's exactly one of the problems as well of trying to shadow somebody. And Wayne Gretzky started to really discover new ways to complicate shadowing him, and what he would do is go and stand by a member of the opposition. So basically, he would create a double teaming of himself by doing that and leave somebody else open. So that's another wrinkle that you can throw into a game if you are being shadowed.
Here's Fedorov, able to pivot away from Hall's checking, still dogged by Brett Hull. Fedorov again with a pass that's taken by Kevin Miller. Moves in with Burr. Miller crosses, feeds to the back. Dallas, a shot save, rebound on the backhand by Burr, and it went wide. Around the boards, it's dropped by Fedorov. Burr chased to the corner, and then bear hug. Tried to one-hand it along, but it's turned over to Gino Cavallini. Then for Jeff Brown. Brown pursued by Miller. Walks it ahead. Tried for Hull. Hatchets a shot that's tipped aside by Cheveldae and spun to the boards by McCrimmon. Recovers back up for Burr. He's got Fedorov breaking. Pass came across for him. Fedorov had it chopped away by Gino Cavallini, but recovers quickly, though he lost to Scott Stevens. Headman passes, back checked away by Racine. Off of Stevens. And he flipped one off the shank of Zombo's stick. So the Red Wings control once more with 3:50 to go in the second period. They have the lead in the game over St. Louis, 3-1. Yzerman hacks it to the corner. Moving for it is Lowry. Spins one back out on the money for Butcher. Headman to Oates. Stood up by Racine. Coming by was Kimball, but that didn't work. Dump in front. Lowry, a backhander. Save Cheveldae. Rebound, and that one went off a fallen defenseman. And then the net dislodged behind Cheveldae. The goalie got one. The defense got the other. Still 3-1 Detroit.
10 years. His hair is a little thinner.
I don't remember her looking so beautiful.
stranger?
I'm hardly a stranger.
Well, you are late.
I know. You shouldn't have waited 10 years for this. Happy anniversary.
The Diamond Anniversary Band. Tell her you'd marry her all over again.
You sure can pick an appetizer.
St. Louis came oh so close to making this a 3-2 hockey game. The blockers and the jammers were out there. Darren Kimball. And Kimball actually made an excellent move on this play. After Lowry failed to score, Kimball came by right there out in front. He's behind everybody. He backhanded the puck. I think it may have gone off Cheveldae's mask as Cheveldae was falling. Kimball only scored 3 goals in the regular season, but he made a good play on that one just to be robbed by Cheveldae. How big a difference do you think it would mean for Detroit in their locker room, Mike, going in with a 2-goal lead or a 1-goal lead at the end of 2?
Cheveldae is just showing so much. Cheveldae in his rookie game and has turned aside so many. And we welcome those of you who have been watching Sports Channel New England and another telecast. Join us here, Detroit and St. Louis, with the Red Wings ahead 3-1. Basson locked up along the boards, tapped it behind. Sutter has it there. Green right on him. Basson trying to wrestle it free. Can't do it. Crossman up with it. Cheveldae has faced 26 shots and some high quality and yielded only once. Probert had that one brushed aside by Paul Cavallini, but the outman there, Mark Habscheid behind, trying to kick it along with his skates. Probert coming back to jostle with Garth Butcher. Rich Sutter moved in. The olive branch waved, at least for right now. 2:51 to go in the second. His team's up. His team isn't.
Each year, the experts at Car and Driver look at over 100 cars, so you don't have to. From the current new cars, they just picked their 10 best. At the most, you'll probably only buy one of them. That's too bad, because 2 of the 10 best are Mercury's. Mercury Sable and Mercury Tracer LTS. All this in the quality of a Mercury.
It looks like roughing penalties to Bob Probert of Detroit, Garth Butcher of the St. Louis Blues. You know, one of the keys coming into this game from a Detroit standpoint, Mike, was Brian Murray didn't know how his young kids would react. The Detroit Red Wings used 17 rookies in all this year. At least 17 rookies got into at least one hockey game. And Tim Cheveldae at his first start, Brian Murray was worried about the first 10 minutes of this game from his kids' standpoint, especially Cheveldae. Said, if I can get by the first 10 minutes, we'll take it from there. Boy, oh boy, they've just gone right through the first 10 minutes, right through the first period. Now they're about to get through the second period.
And they lead in the game by a score of 3-1. The Red Wings used 45 players this year. That's a high for them and a league high this year. Along the boards, puck swung in front, and Racine able to sweep it away. Tapped back in deep by Dan Quinn, but it is Zombo given a good hit by Brindamore, who's been a physical force. This one turned back out by Fedek, on for Carson. Crisscrossing with Shuchuk. Carson trying to move his way in, wedged off by Bruce, still controlling. Gave it over to Shuchuk. There'll be a penalty coming up as a shot is blocked off by Snaps, and Detroit will go on the power play with 2:09 to go in the second. Well, that makes it all but a given that they'll have a 2-goal lead at the end of this period.
Well, the Red Wings, basically, when you look at their centers, Yzerman, Fedorov, Jimmy Carson, they all like to move the puck on the rush. They are not a dump and chase team based on those 3 centers. So if Jimmy Carson decides that he's going to do his thing, a lot of times it results in a holding penalty. Same with Yzerman, same with Fedorov. When they're able to penetrate, get the blue line, then they can move laterally, and it really puts a lot of pressure on the Blues guys that are defending. This time it looks like it's David Bruce that's off, right? It's a hook. 17:51 of the second period. But I think the Blues have to do something about the neutral zone. I mean, that's where you have to head off a guy like Yzerman or a guy like Jimmy Carson. And normally the Blues are a real strong neutral zone forechecking team. Haven't been that much tonight.
I'm sure it's the question that all coaches are asked, but what happens? Does it become a collective thing? Maybe we'll get to that in a moment. This one turned along now by Doug Crossman. Jams one behind. Scott Stevens rides his man off. Lowry up with it there. Turned right back into traffic, though. In deep is Yzerman. Rolled one along as Yzerman regathers his stick. Stevens drilled it off Lowry and back down. So Cheveldae will set it up. Now we're down to 1 minute and 45 seconds to go in the second period. 1:37 left on the power play. Red Wings are 1 for the prior 2 power plays that they've had and lead the game 3-1. Doug Crossman rips one off. Scott Stevens there to get it. Dumped it back along further. Kept alive, though, by Fedorov, then flipped off of Blue and out of play. And so, again, a stoppage of play and a center ice faceoff.
So far, the man of this hockey game is Steve Yzerman. 2 goals to lead his Red Wings in this one, 3-1. And you know, when I talked about the Red Wings earlier, Mike, as being a team that had more room for improvement, more potential to improve than the Blues, because the Blues overachieved all season long, I think Steve Yzerman best typifies the entire Red Wings situation. Sure, he scored over 50 goals again this year, but we both watched him. We both watched him often enough to know that we didn't think that Steve Yzerman had the sustained spark that he has had in the past and that we have seen in the past. So Yzerman, like the rest of I think the Detroit Red Wings, can step it up a notch here in the playoffs. I think there's still room for Steve to play like he did 2 years ago and 3 years ago.
Well, he sure had a lot of ice time in that first period, and that was one of the changes we noticed early in the season. Here's a scramble to the front. Yzerman can't get to that. Rich Sutter drills it back down. Because I think under Brian Murray's more disciplined, less wide open style, he was not seeing as much ice time, but that changed. And he was double shifted as early as December.
I mean, he was great, but he looked human this season to me. All the times that I saw him, he had looked superhuman in the past.
Fedorov picks that one up. That went off of Wilson. Punched loose by Burr. Snep's able to clear it back out with 40 seconds to go. Fedorov drops it off. Pivoting with this is Jimmy Carson. Yzerman and Kevin Miller are also out on this power play. Rolled on by Racine to Yzerman. Dumped it in deep. Racine goes to get it. Yanked one back for Miller, but it's cut off for the Blues and hacked along by Mahar. So again, the Red Wings will drop back. 17 seconds to go on the power play. 26 seconds left in the period. Miller tips to the corner. Burrows right in after it. Given a hit by Sneps. Puck turned along by Shuchuk. He ties up with Sneps, and along to get it is Mahar. Fedorov there just spins it across to Dallas. Out of the penalty box now comes Bruce. And in 6 seconds, the period will end, and the Red Wings have to be very satisfied with this. And as I say that, they nearly commit a giveaway. But a recovery by Dallas. 40 minutes. And the Red Wings with a 2-goal lead. Yzerman from Probert at 7:08. Yzerman, Yzerman, and Crossman at 12:01 on the power play. Hall from Oates and Lowry at 13:10. 3-1 Red Wings at the end of 2. Let's pause for this regional break. You're watching the NHL and the Stanley Cup playoffs on Sports Channel.
I'm Bob Knoll. My official title is head of auto testing for Consumer Reports magazine, but I really work for you. Every year, my staff and I report on over 140 models, specifically with your needs in mind. So when you shop for a car, you'll know if it's safe and reliable, how it's equipped, how it performs, and whether it's cramped or comfortable. And there are over 200 people who work for you at Consumer Reports. We test and report on everything from toothpaste to TVs. And since Consumer Reports is nonprofit and accepts no advertising, we're able to give you the unbiased truth about products. Right now is a good time to try Consumer Reports because you can get a free trial issue with no strings attached. Here are the details.
Call now for your free trial issue of Consumer Reports. Learn how products compare, which give you the most value for your dollar, and which are best for your specific needs. Consumer Reports gives you information like which fast food lunch had the least fat, which VCR had the best picture quality, which oil filter best protects your car, which laundry detergent delivers what it promises, and which bank really helps the money pile up. Consumer Reports rating system compares products by brand name. You'll know who the reliable manufacturers are, which models have the features you want, plus all the pros and cons, including price. Call now for your free trial issue, then decide. When the bill arrives, pay it and get 11 more issues, 12 in all, including the annual buying guide issue for just $20. Or write cancel on the bill and owe nothing. And with your paid subscription, you'll get 2 free books, our 1991 buying guide issue and the updated New Medicine Show.
And your paid subscription includes the annual auto issue with new car ratings, repair records, and crash test results. So put Consumer Reports to work for you. Call now.
Call 1-800-634-6500. 1-800-634-6500.
Bob Papa back in New York after 2 periods. Detroit leads St. Louis 3-1. Meanwhile, at Chicago Stadium, this game in the second period knotted up at 2 apiece. The Calgary Flames are on a power play right now. They are taking on the Edmonton Oilers, and let's take you out to the Olympic Saddledome. Here's Chris Cuthbert and Jim.
And build your future on the Rock. And build your future on the Rock.
In the second period at Chicago Stadium, the Blackhawks take the lead. A gorgeous pass by Chris Chelios. Dirk Graham with the goal. 3-2 Chicago in the second. Now back to Mike Emmerich and Bill Clement.
Thank you, Bob. So Dirk Graham winds up with a goal, the Blackhawks captain. As Chicago the lead there, here it is Detroit leading the Blues 3-1. 40 minutes have been played so far in this contest. Power plays are even at 3. Detroit has connected 1 time on its power play, the Steve Yzerman second goal of the night.
You know, teams typically have terrible times coming back when they're trailing at the end of 2. St. Louis's record isn't great, but they've done it a half dozen times this season. Come back after trailing after 2 to win a hockey game.
Puck jam back in. Well, that's as good a record as you'll see in the league in regular season, too. The league was desperately short of teams that even could come back twice in the course of a year while trailing. And even the best teams would be trailing going into the third at least 20 times or so.
Exactly.
Others close to 40. Stevens stepped into by Steve Yzerman, rolls it ahead. Bob Probert one-on-one with Jeff Brown. Probert had it poked away but recovered, though he couldn't pass. He's just pestered by Mahar. Yzerman given a good jolt by Stevens. Puck taken by Yzerman, but put right on the stick of Bob Basson, who will lead it back up for the Blues. Hands back on for Rich Sutter. Tapped one in deep. Rick Green goes to get that. Dumps it behind. Zombo checked off by Oates. But it's Fedorov taking that pass in the slot, and Fedorov turns it back on for Probert. Fedorov has not been spared any ice time in this contest tonight. Despite having food poisoning earlier, he has seen a regular shift.
He has. Brian Murray dressed an extra forward just in case, but Fedorov has lugged his share of ice time. So has Brett Hall. Brett Hall totals now 18 minutes and 41 seconds through 2 periods. He had 8 minutes and 20 seconds in the second, but Steve Yzerman, 23 minutes and 10 seconds total ice time. That's out of 40 minutes. When you get to play over half and you're a center iceman in the National Hockey League, that is a ton of ice time. And I suspect that Brett Hall's ice time was down a bit in the second because Detroit had a couple of power plays. That's 4 minutes of ice time right there that Brett Hall simply will not see.
An interesting note you were passing along in the first period, that it took almost 3 minutes for Hall to see the ice at the start of the game.
Well, I think that Brian Sutter was still feeling out the matchups. Brian Murray wanted to have his #1 choice in matchups out there, and that was Fedorov quite a bit early in the game, to see if Brian Sutter would counter and put Oates head-to-head against Fedorov. And in the early going, Brian Sutter didn't seem to want to comply with that situation.
He's doing it now, though. That's the unit that represents the Blues out right now. Lowry along with Oates and Brett Hall.
See, that's the advantage of having the lead for Detroit now. Brian Sutter, trailing 3-1, cannot be worried about matchups. He has to worry about scoring goals, and that means he has to put his best players, Oates and Hall, they're the superstars, just let them rip. Put them out there against whoever Detroit wants to play against them, and let the greatness try and surface.
Miller with a toss that missed for Burr. Butcher goes back, drills one into Sean Burr. Puck flaps loose and is brought on now by Paul Cavallini. Cavallini eyed up by Racine, hooked at from behind by Fedorov, and here's Fedorov. Might get a breakaway out of this. Fedorov moving right in. Look, shoot, score! Sergei Fedorov makes it 4-1 in favor of Detroit.
Well, you'll probably see 16 other Detroit Red Wings scrambling to find that jar of mayonnaise that gave Fedorov his food poisoning. I'll tell you what. The man is incredible. He is playing this hockey game on virtually no sleep from last night. He did not skate this morning. Pulled away from Brett Hall. Look at Hall dive to try and stop him. And then Zingo. Top corner on Riendo. Riendo didn't have a chance. Smooth stride, no upper body movement. Great leg strength. That's a major league goal in any country. 4-1. Detroit leads.
Although the Blues don't necessarily worry about Brett Hall's plus-minus, tonight it might give some cause for some concern. He has been on the ice for all 3 of Detroit's even-strength goals. Spun by Brindamore, tapped by Chevelday. Zombo with a pass ahead that's flicked loose by Snaps, hacked by Quinn. He fails. Carson back to take it. So the Red Wings with a 3-goal bulge back again. Quinn hooks this one wide. Set up by Chevelday, taken by Zombo. Dumped back off, but kept by Snaps. Snaps feeds for Brindamore. Menaced away from him by Fedek. Flipped back along by Marois. 17.5 to go in the third period of play. The Red Wings with only 14 shots on goal, but 4 of them have gone in a 2-on-1 break. Carson in, fires, and a pad stop made by Riendo, and there'll be a penalty coming up. A boarding call has been signaled by Dennis Morrell. St. Louis will be a man short. Stevens will sit.
Each year, the experts at Car and Driver look at over 100 cars, so you don't have to. From the current new cars, they just picked their 10 best. At the most, you'll probably only buy one of them. That's too bad, because 2 of the 10 best are Mercury's. Mercury Sable and Mercury Tracer LTS. All this in the quality of a Mercury.
Al McInnes scored Calgary's goal late first period. Edmonton ties it up. Asa Tikkanen at 18:20 of period number 1, 1-1 at the end of 1. Back to Mike Emmerich and Bill Clement.
Scott Stevens, a boarding minor, 4th power play for Detroit. They lead by a score of 4-1. Fedorov's goal at 1:52 unassisted. Crossman over for the drive by Yzerberg, and another chop at the front of the net, and Riendo got that one. As taking a couple of whacks was big Bob Probert.
Boy, the Red Wings have the Blues exactly where they want them right now. A 4-1 lead. They're on the power play, so unless St. Louis can strike for a short-hander, another 2 minutes will slip by. Bob Probert banged away at the rebounds, and he got banged. Doesn't matter what your name is. If you're standing there pounding away at this time of year, you end up flat on your face.
Doug Crossman controls, hands back over to Racine, flips one that is blocked aside by Butcher. Yzerman able to flick it back to Racine. Across now for Crossman again. Doug Crossman cranks a shot off the shank of Probert's stick. Scramble at the front of the net. They poke away at it, but Wilson emerges and starts it back out 2-on-2 shorthanded with Mahar. Flipped away by Racine. Regathered by Doug Crossman. 40 seconds gone on the Red Wings power play. Yzerberg, one-time MVP and leading scorer in the American League with New Jersey's farm team. Traded by New Jersey to Detroit this year. It is Yzerman crossing. Feeds to the back. Racine gives it quickly back to him. They play some catch. Steamed off of Yzerman's skates. Recovers across for Doug Crossman to play, but in neutral ice. He's able to spin it back on for Yzerman. Leads in with Bob Probert nearby. Sent one right off that hit off Riendo. Shot short side, blocked off by Riendo as it was fed near the net by Yzerberg. And we get a stoppage of play as the net became dislodged behind Riendo.
Toughest play for a goaltender. When that thing took a funny kick, if Riendo plays it when it comes by him, he's got a chance of deflecting it behind him. So he has to let it come right through him and in front. That's how Yzerberg got his chance.
During the regular season, when the Red Wings were the first team to get to 4, they won every time. All 27 times they were first to 4. The Blues never lost, 28-0-4. And overall, you see what that meant to the teams in the league. Whoever got to 4 first won 9 out of 10 games, even a little bit more than that.
Remember what we said about all of the numbers that were lopsided in favor of St. Louis before this game started? We said, throw them away, it doesn't matter. That's one number I don't think we can throw away, or one set of statistics. It is absolutely too impressive to ignore. Sure, we might see it happen in the playoffs, but with a 4-1 lead here in the third period, boy, Detroit has the stranglehold on St. Louis in Game 1 so far.
Montreal and Hartford were the first teams to 4 in their games last night and won. The other 2 winners did not get that many goals. Red Wings 4-1, still 25 seconds on their power play. Pass ahead now for Kevin Miller. Drops it on back to Fedorov. Cranks a shot, and it's deflected away by Marois. Harold Snaps recovers. Outlets on for Dave Lowry. Catching up to him is Fedorov, and it's brushed aside by Doug Crossman. Fedorov quickly connects on with Jimmy Carson. Carson dropping it on for Miller. Around for Carson to sweep behind for Burr. Back for Carson. Nearly handcuffed him. Puck picked up by Lowry. And Lowry with 2 seconds to go can't clear. Kept alive by Fedorov. Out of the box is Stevens. Fedorov had it chopped away but got it back again. Finessed one in front and it was chopped aside by Carson. Stevens tosses back out. We get a stoppage of play and I think Dennis Morrell may take a player aside.
He is going to. Had Jimmy Carson not retaliated, it would have been another power play, but it looks like it's going to be even. The scoreboard is in 4-1 Red Wings.
Now how am I going to get there? It'll be great to see the guys again. I wonder if they'll all show. I just gotta get there.
I'm trying to make my way back to the Brackendale River.
Friends deserve the best.
This is great. They all showed up.
The crisp, clean taste of Canada's best beer, Labatt's Blue.
What took you so long?
I had a little car trouble.
Between friends, it's true blue. Labatt's Blue.
Well, the only numbers that mean anything in this game, the score, 4-1 Red Wings. Regular season, St. Louis 4th in offense, Detroit 9th. Defense, St. Louis 3rd, Detroit 17th, 7th, 19th, and 3rd and 18th. Their respective rankings in the power play and penalty killing. This should have been a rout for the St. Louis Blues. Anything but that. Roughing penalties of Sneps and Carson at 4:50 of the third here.
Dallas wrapped one around that Yzerman can carry further. Dumps it around the rail, waiting for it. Dumping it along was Hapshide, but instead it's Stevens turned it right back to Hapshide, who kicked it loose behind. Garpenloff can't get there. It's Jeff Brown turning it along, but Yzerman controlling. Steve Yzerman lost it. Hull quickly finessed over for Oates, and it's given up for Garpenloff, who fired a shot wide. Gino Cavallini controlling for the Blues and sliding one that Oates couldn't have taken because it was across two lines. All the way down for an icing against St. Louis with 14:25 to go in the third. Well, the arena is a little noisier now. 4-1 Detroit ahead, and the Bluebirds are here.
Boy, I can't believe it, but Brian Murray is putting Fedorov back out on the ice again. He just got off, but because Brian Sutter has gone with his bread and butter unit, well, now he's changing. Now Brian Sutter's pulling Oates off. Very surprised. 14:25 to go, and the Blues trailing 4-1. It looked like Brian Sutter was going to allow Hull and Oates to play head-to-head with whoever Brian Murray put out there. Not so on this one.
The professor, Ron Caron, who has pulled off so many splendid trades and has himself built this team since coming here from the Montreal organization. Only 4 St. Louis drafted players are in the lineup. The rest have come through trades. Brindamore slots, poked away from Stevens by a diving Burr. Back ahead comes Fedorov now, pursued by Quinn. Fedorov by, and a shot was saved by Riendo. Picked up by Kevin Miller. Flipped one that is controlled by Brown. Brown rattles it back off the boards. Kept by Racine. Swirls one to the other side. Bruce stepped into by Miller. Brown up with it there. Dumps it back out. Racine controlling. Floats it back in. Stopped by Riendo. Taken by Stevens. Clock shows 13:40 to go in the third. If you're just joining us, the Red Wings have the lead in the game 4-1. They've led since midway in the first period when Brad McCrimmon fired a slap shot that found its way on a deflection through Riendo. They've built that lead to now 3 goals. Let's pause for this regional break. You're watching the Stanley Cup playoffs on Sports Channel.
It's not simply a game. It's an era of fitness, health, muscle development, body toning, beauty, and power. It's the era of Soloplec. Become a part of it. Call anytime for a free brochure.
Garth Butcher from the faceoff for Paul Cavallini. Shovels one, snapped up by Cheveldae. Turned along to Brad McCrimmon. The Blues in this period have just thrown to the net their first shot. We welcome those of you who are watching across Canada on Hockey Night in Canada. Here in the third period at the arena in St. Louis, the Detroit Red Wings have a lead on the St. Louis Blues of 4-1, along with Bill Clement, Mike Emmerich. 13:21 to go in the third period. The Blues have only come up with 1 shot on goal, and that just a second ago. And we're nearly 6.5 minutes into the period.
Now, this lead is not accidental. Detroit has earned the 4-1 lead, especially on the play not only of Yzerman, who has 2 goals, but Fedorov has been awesome against Adam Oates. You know, we've been tracking Yzerman's ice time. He played 23 minutes out of the first 40. You wonder why Jimmy Carson doesn't get any ice time on this team? I think we should be tracking Fedorov's ice time. He's back out there again.
And for those of you just joining us, Fedorov missed the practice today because of food poisoning. A shot saved by Cheveldae. Rebound to the corner. Lowry sealed up by McCrimmon. Puck picked up by Hull. Hull has the Blues' only goal. To Butcher, a shot saved. Rebound, another save. Puck loose, and it hit the goal post on the rebound. Chopped high to the air by Bobby Dallas and back down. Out of play it went into the Blues bench. The Blues came close to making it a 2-goal deficit. But it remains thanks to that young man, and I believe a post behind him, 4-1.
Boy, has Tim Cheveldae removed the question mark that was hovering above him before this game. He is playing his first NHL playoff game, and he has looked like a 15-year veteran. Well, maybe that would make him too old. We'll call him a 5-year veteran. Brian Murray didn't know how his young team was going to react in this tilt. So far, they've answered every challenge that St. Louis has thrown their way. You know, in talking about Fedorov as well, Mike, Fedorov, unknown to everybody before he arrived with the Detroit Red Wings, they didn't know how driven an athlete he was. He is an overachiever. And guys that are driven have hearts that drive them where other men can't go, so you can forget about the food poisoning. It just, I don't think it registered with him because he's such a driven athlete.
Probert hands across for Yzerberg. Back to Probert again. Hands to Yzerman, looking for the hat trick. Across for a shot by Yzerberg, and just arriving in time with a big goal stick was Riendo. They battle in the corner. Rich Sutter tangling up with Yzerman, able to step away as Brown. Lays it ahead for Basson, hands over for Scott Stevens. Pivoting from Crossman, backhands one that Rich Sutter hacked wide. Basson flips one in front, kicked aside, then fed by Rich Sutter, but taken by Crossman. Moves it back out for the Red Wings with just over 12 minutes to go in the third. Marching on is Yzerman with, or rather Ysbard with it. Little pass is controlled by Scott Stevens and turned aside. Racine on back now. Carefully the Red Wings play it. Yzerman with 2 goals, Fedorov with 1, McCrimmon with 1. Brett Hull the only goal tonight for the Blues. This one wrapped around. Gino Cavallini tips. Gathered in by Gary Shuchuk out of the University of Wisconsin. Along now for Fedek, but Shuchuk has to play himself. Close quarters for Carson, who dropped it back in deep. Mario Marois chips it along the boards for Brindamore, but that hop to Racine for a one-timer beyond the leap of Fedek. Gino Cavallini able to step back out with it. 11:20 to go in the third as he fires into Cheveldae. Picked up by Racine, tapped along for Fedek. Duels with Brindamore, though. Puck kick to Dan Quinn. Can't get loose for the shot. Out in front, Brindamore. Can't get a shot away. Then it's centered to the front. They still scrap away at it, but Cheveldae was able to fight off one attempt and then got some help to seal for the stoppage of play. A net mouth scramble, but again, Cheveldae comes up victorious. You're watching the NHL on Sports Channel.
Now, how'd you like to make a bet? If you like living it up in places like Atlantic City and Las Vegas, I bet this Players Club card will save you big. In places like the Sands, Atlantic City, and the Riviera, Las Vegas, up to 60% less on hotel rooms, 50% less for shows, and always 25% less for meals and drinks. So call Players Club now. Players Club, it's a sure thing.
New members get 2 free nights in Las Vegas or Atlantic City when the club books their flights. Call toll-free now.
Well, the pressure has all been on Tim Cheveldae, but the Red Wings were able to squeeze a couple of scoring chances together. Here is one. Yzerman to Ysbard. You know, I think Yzerman sets the tone. He's so fluid. You're going in on a 2-on-1. He passes over to you. Ysbard babied that. He looked like Yzerman when he got the puck. Doesn't work like that. You can't imitate Yzerman. I mean, he's in a class by himself.
In deep is Kevin Miller. Touched that one up, and they said it was an illegal offside pass, and so all the way back from the point it was let go, it'll come.
Boy, remember the days of the one-goalie teams? Well, now teams have to play with two goaltenders, at least. LA and the New York Rangers were the only 2 teams that played with 2 goalies. 6 teams used 3 goalies this year. 9 teams used 4. 3 teams used 5. And 1 team used 6 goalies, the Detroit Red Wings. That's how much trouble they had finding the right guy. You know, interestingly enough, one of the teams that used 5 was the Chicago Blackhawks. And Belfour played in 74 games, yet they used 5 in all.
Burr with a pass on ahead to Kevin Miller. Miller tries to finesse by and does. A shot saved by Riendo. He scores! I thought Riendo had it, but it popped back over the the goal line, and it counts. What a play by Kevin Miller. And it is 5-1 in favor of Detroit.
Well, you tell me this wasn't a good acquisition for the Detroit Red Wings. Kevin Miller can play every forward position. He is playing on their top defensive line. And there's a good look at his offensive ability. Man, oh man, did he ever hoop Jeff Brown. I think Riendo thought he had it as well, and he was complaining. I don't know about what. Maybe he was hoping for a high stick call. But an excellent inside-outside move by Kevin Miller has given Detroit a 5-1 lead. You know, that actually popped out, and Miller, with his stick or his hand or something, redirected it past Riendo. Riendo's argument didn't matter. 5-1 Detroit. I'm surprised.
I think the hockey world is. You look at the spirit that St. Louis carried down the stretch, winning the last 7. Detroit a little uncertain. Only won 2 of the last 7. Faltered some in special teams down near the end.
Well, here's another. What a sweet move. You know, Miller actually looked to the inside, too. I think that's what threw Brown off. He was looking to the inside when he moved to the outside. But Miller has scored. Burr gets the assist on that. And we've talked about the Fedorov-Adam Oates matchup. Miller and Burr assisted on the first goal of the game. Fedorov's line was out there for that one. Fedorov scored Detroit's 4th goal. And now Miller scores their 5th goal. So the Fedorov line has scored 3 goals here.
Boy, I just noticed Johan Garpenlov speared Rich Sutter. This could be a big call from Dennis Morel in terms of the Blues getting back in. We'll get it in a moment.
My goodness.
Come on. We'll fix this place up. We're Winchesters. I wish I never heard of 1636 Cherry Lane.
This is 1639. That's 1636.
In the movies, happy endings are easy, but in the real world, they take planning. So for insurance, investment advice, or the home of your dreams, come to the companies of the Prudential and build your future on the rock.
Well, the Red Wings dodged a bullet on this one. It's only 2, and it's a slash to Johan Garpenlov.
Put the Blues on their 4th power play. Boy, Rich Sutter hunched right over quickly when that stick came around. And although Garpenlov had his back to me, it looked like the blade of the stick certainly registered with Rich Sutter. And Dennis Morel saw it and raised his arm quickly. And that can be a 2, a 4, or a 5 in a game misconduct. But it's just a slash at 9:32. Red Wings are 1 for 4 on their power play. The Blues are 0 for the prior 3. Greg Jablonski is the replacement goaltender now for the Blues, having come on after the Miller goal. Puck dumped back along, worked over for Brett Hull. To the back it comes to Brown, hands over for Oates. Oates pass to Brown again. Hull to Brown, and Hull cranks a shot, and it went wide. Around now to Oates. Oates looking things over. Big shot by Brown, went wide, and doing the split Cheveldae, and it's tucked in off a Red Wing, and it's a power play goal that makes it 5-2.
Well, nobody in this building cares how it was scored. The St. Louis Blues have scored so many pretty power play goals this season. They don't mind taking one that looked like Rick Green put in. Nope, it never even got to Rick Green. Cheveldae was trying to sneak over to the right post with his right skate. You know, how many times have we talked about shots that end up going wide and how dangerous they are? That went wide. Cheveldae wasn't tucked tight to the post, and Brett Hull may have even backhanded that out of there with one hand on his stick.
Yeah, it goes to Hull. At 10:23, Brett Hull with a power play goal for the Blues. The Detroit margin is 3 at 5-2. Brad McCrimmon ahead. Flips one that's knocked down by Oates, but brought on by Yzerman. Flew one up the wing, but it's walked back on by Adam Oates. Oates tied up by Dallas, tries to get through. Went down and Fedorov played, but it came back to him. Pestered by Hull. Fedorov able to shake him. Sergei Fedorov, who had a breakaway unassisted, goes for another one. Backhander kicked out by Pat Jablonski, and we get a slashing call coming up, and it'll be against the Blues. So the Red Wings are going to get another power play.
Well, the Red Wings have sure overloaded the Blues' problem of mobility on the blue line. I mean, they just haven't been able to cope. I mean, a few moments ago it was Kevin Miller just hooping Brown. And this time, watch Fedorov go around Harold Snepps. I mean, he lost him completely. Finally, Marois came over from his spot and really slashed Fedorov. I think Fedorov's hip got most of that. Otherwise, he could have had a real sore arm, if not a broken bone in his arm. So Marois, trying to cover up for Harold Snepps, has drawn a slashing penalty at 10:54 of the third period. And Mr. Fedorov does not look like a guy that is tired one bit. He still has lots of steam and lots of energy left.
Racine with a shot. Ricocheted across to be played back out by Ron Wilson. Wilson eyed up by Crossman. Pivots. Swung one off Crossman that's gathered in by Yzerbaert. So a penalty to Marois for slashing at 10:54. And the Red Wings have a couple of minutes to play with and a 3-goal lead. Racine moves in. The enemy of the Blues right now is the scoreboard clock. Yzerman a shot deflected wide. Skated down by Scott Stevens. Lifted back off. Crossman will stop it. 8.5 left in the third. Blues have outshot the Red Wings 34-23, but trail 5-2. This one knocked down by Wilson. Flipped it back. Red Wings got a break from the linesman. Racine connects with Yzerman. Then across for Bob Probert. Probert just jams it back along. It went off the referee, Dennis Morel, but took a Red Wing bounce behind.
All this in the quality of a Mercury.
Doug Crossman of the Red Wings has evened things up here. He's taken a tripping penalty. 7:54 to go in the third period. The Red Wings lead at 5-2. Right along the boards in the background, down went Bob Bassett. So in 48 seconds, when the Johan Garpenlov penalty, no, I take that back, when the St. Louis penalty to Marois expires, the power play sweepstakes will be on.
Four-a-side hockey. Oates to the back. Paul Cavallini's shot is snagged and then set aside by Cheveldae. Worked along now for Kevin Miller. Floats one across. The kneeling block made by Paul Cavallini. Scoops it ahead for Oates. Watched by Zombo. Big blast off the glove of Cheveldae. Chopped along by Dulles. Red Wings try to finesse out, and they can. Yzerbaert moving on with Fedorov. Check that. It's Miller on for Fedorov. Wedged down on the play, and it's picked up by Paul Cavallini. So Kevin Miller doing a strong job in what will become a shorthanded role in a moment. 15 seconds from now, the Blues will start that power play, and a score! A crazy bounce, but it's in!
You know, I was just about to say Brett Hull must be getting tired of shadowing Fedorov. Hull took Fedorov down when he had his break on Jablonski, and then Hull dug in to come back. Nice give and go. Hull to Brown, back to Hull. You talk about vision. Brett Hull spotted Adam Oates in front and laid an elevator pass up into the air and back down right onto Adam Oates' stick. Deflected it up and behind Cheveldae. Never over till it's over, is it? 5-3 Detroit is leading, and in 10 seconds, the St. Louis Blues are going to end up with 1 minute and 12 seconds of power play time.
Boy, the time of that Marois penalty expiring when it all looked the darkest for St. Louis could not be better right now, because he'll be out in 10 seconds and they can shift to that power play. I saw the deflection, but I thought that it hopped off of Tim Cheveldae, but as it turns out, it was just an artful deflection cleanly.
Remember what we said at the beginning of the game. The Red Wings simply have to understand that Brett Hull cannot be stopped. They have to go into their damage control mode. Well, Brett Hull has figured in 3 goals. He scored the first 2 for the Blues. Super assist there to set up Adam Oates. The best 1-2 combination in the National Hockey League this year. Looks like they're getting ready to heat it up.
The old arena in St. Louis, where Blues fans in the late 60s made it so bad that the Pittsburgh Penguins and Red Kelly, their coach, wore earmuffs for part of a first period. Then when they were down 4-0, didn't make much difference, so they took them off. It can really thunder in here, and if the Blues get one more, it'll be the loudest of the night, because they'll be back to within 1 after seeming well out of it. Clock ticks down to 7:04 to go in the third. 5-3 Detroit. Out of the box, Marois. He's replaced by Hull. Blues on the power play for the 6th time tonight. Cheveldae takes over here. Scoops one off the glass that bounced away from Brown's reach, right under his stick and down. Oates takes the tap from Pat Jablonski. Lays it ahead for Lowry. Spins one off the wall that hit the back of the goal. McCrimmon there, canceled out by Lowry. Still they scrap for it. McCrimmon floated it to the corner. Brown there with 40 seconds left on the man advantage. Brett Hull working the outside. Burr watching him, and then McCrimmon to the back to Brown. A lot of sparring in front. Oates to Brown once more. To Hull for a shot. Turned aside by Cheveldae. Fired around the wall. Adam Oates with a good keep. Feeds one across that's tipped away from Hull's reach by McCrimmon. Jeff Brown with a nice keep at the other point. Swung right to Burr, though, and he drills it back down. Jablonski steams it ahead. Red Wings in the midst of a change. Hull trying to creep by, taken to the glass by Zombo, and the Red Wings turn it back down. 5 seconds from now, Crossman will be out of the box. It's forced away from Wilson by Kevin Miller. In deep now with Gino Cavallini, and a delayed offside is whistled down, and the penalty time to Crossman has expired. So that fire is put out for now with 5:53 to go in the third. Even strength hockey, 5-3 Detroit.
Everybody in the National Hockey League designs defenses to stop the top offensive players on the other teams. Well, haven't been able to do it that often against Oates and Hull. For that matter, Wayne Gretzky. He had the best points per game average in the NHL again this season, 2.09. Adam Oates was second, right behind him. Oates missed 19 games with an abdominal injury, had 1.89 points per game. Then Lemieux of Pittsburgh in his abbreviated time in play. Then Hull, and then Mark Recchi of Pittsburgh. Steve Yzerman was 8th overall in the league in points per game average with 1.35.
Well, remember when 85 points would win the Art Ross scoring trophy? Now it has to be, well, 163 this year by Wayne Gretzky, although he outpointed Hull by 32. Scott Stevens fires one back in off the high glass. It's tapped by Cheveldae, gathered in by Bobby Dallas. Flips one that was a problem for a moment for Shuchuk, but he's able to tip it back out. Floated weakly back on by Paul Cavallini to brother Gino, wedged off by Dallas. Red Wings take over again. Jimmy Carson starts back out with it. Carson crossing with Shuchuk, dropped it. Brindamore couldn't take, but Wilson could, and starts it the other way. Paul Cavallini once more. Cavallini controls, shovels one that's blocked down by Probert. He starts the Red Wings ahead. Bob Probert has Yzerman and headmans it to him. Probert heads for the net. Yzerman a shot, he scores! Steve Yzerman with the hat trick, and it's 6-3.
Boy, I'm impressed with a couple of aspects of this goal. Number one, the shot, but besides that, Bob Probert gave Yzerman time. You know, that actually went up on end and flat on Yzerman's stick. You talk about concentration, focus, and control. That's Steve Yzerman. But Probert, an excellent move. He kicked it up to the backhand, then he pushed it ahead to Yzerman, and then he broke with speed that I've never seen Bob Probert use before. Bob Probert broke to the other side so that Scott Stevens couldn't move over and take Yzerman on a one-on-one situation. Probert created a two-on-one with drive, determination, and speed, and Yzerman took care of the rest. 6-3. The breathing room is back for the Red Wings.
At 14:55, Probert assisting on Yzerman's third and Steve Yzerman's second Stanley Cup hat trick. Yzerman pivoting behind, has some room to roar here, falls down but is able to wedge it ahead for Racine to carry. It's a 3-on-2 Detroit, and Racine just plays conservatively, dumping it in. Sneps turns it off the glass. Two-a-side battle the boards, and it's Dan Quinn with a little pass for Basson. Probert right on him, though, and the Blues now see their enemy become greater. The time is 4:25 remaining in the third, and they've got to make up 3. Centering pass, Rich Sutter can't get it. To the corner, he's forced by Dallas. Zombo took a high stick. Basson wedges for Marois, shovels one. He wanted to hope for Quinn's deflection, but in the way was Probert. Probert and Quinn tie it up. Then emerging with it is Zombo. Makes Harold Sneps go back again. 39 shots for St. Louis on Tim Cheveldae. They've gotten 3 past. 24 shots for Detroit, and they've scored 6. This the first on Pat Jablonski, however. Burr moving in, drops over for Fedorov. His shot pad stopped Jablonski. Rebound, and Fedorov went down on the lean of Lowry. Turned along to the boards by Jeff Brown. Still checks with Fedorov. Lowry in deep to get it. Many of the seats empty now as the big throng here of nearly 18,000 tonight has seen Detroit just take its best defensive shell to St. Louis, and Hull with a shot that went off the iron. Then Stevens a drive that goes wide. Back it comes to Brown. Waits and cranks one that's off the mark. Hull went down. Stevens controlling. Flips for Hull. Tries to finesse to go to the backhander, but that doesn't work. Chopped on by Kevin Miller and back out again. 3 minutes and 10 seconds to go in the third. For the Blues, it's Stevens. Gino Cavallini, defended by Fedek, lays it back down. Jeff Brown will go to get it. Yzerman's first hat trick was against Alan Chevrier of the Blackhawks on the 6th of April of '89 in a 5-4 Detroit loss. This one looks to be a Detroit victory tonight. Down to the last 2:45, they have a 3-goal lead. Fedek to the corner, pause with Jeff Brown. Fedek without a stick and without a glove, trying to kick to control.
And without a hope.
Guess not. Adam Oates with it. Passes, but Rick Green is right there. The veterans make very few moves, as Green did just then. It didn't come to him, but one little reach was enough. Dumps it in. To the bench he comes for another shift change. 2:20 to go in the third. On with it, Gino Cavallini sailed one. Back it comes for Butcher. Lays it off for Wilson. Checked there by Racine. Racine now without a stick. Then it's sent to the front. Karpenloff up with it. Past one that was away from Potvin and back down. Pat Jablonski to tend it with a big goal stick to Paul Cavallini. Nearly lost it to the front, but recovered to Brindamore. Back checking his Habscheid. Tosses it back in. 1:53 to go. A lot of surprises in the opening round of almost every playoff series in every year. But half the games last night were surprises. The visiting team won. And here's one that looks like it's wrapped up for Detroit now. Dumped off by Brown. Taken back by Basson. It's a team that only beat St. Louis in the regular season twice. Sutter flips one. Steered aside by Cheveldae. But won't Tim Cheveldae recall this date? Often during the summertime, the fact that he played his very first game in an enemy rink by a team that missed by only 1 point in winning the overall President's Trophy and shut them down when they came up with their biggest and best effort in the second period, 16 shots.
Well, I'll remember Tim Cheveldae when I'm handing out the check marks for the Edge. I'll tell you that 2 nights from now. I mean, we gave the goaltending edge to St. Louis. You can't be the 3rd best defensive team in the NHL without superb goaltending. So the edge went to St. Louis because of that, and because Detroit's goaltending was an unknown in the playoffs. Not anymore. Detroit gets the check mark already for Saturday night's game here.
Yzerman taps to the corner and goes to get it. Centers one. Yzerman, a rising shot off the glass. 40 seconds to go. Yzerman shot, got the glass with that one as he was gunning for 4. Dump back off by Basson. Green has it there and throws it back in. Jablonski with the tap, and Stevens plays to Brown, and this could be the last St. Louis flourish of the tilt. Oates jabbing it up for Brett Hull moving in. And we get a stoppage of play as Bob Probert and Scott Stevens are, I believe it's Stevens, we'll have to check. The jersey was pulled up as they were right in front of the St. Louis bench. It is Scott Stevens and Bob Probert, a couple of the heavyweight tusslers in the league who are about to go at it.
You know, Probert had given Stevens a real clean but a real hard hit behind the net. I looked away because they split from one another. We're just coming up ice kind of casually. Something had to happen after I looked away.
Bob Probert with a scrap, and earlier an assist on Steve Yzerman's hat trick marker on Pat Jablonski.
What is refreshing? It's the taste. The taste that could only come from a cold blue light right out of the ice. Now, that's refreshing.
Bob Probert has left the ice. 19 seconds to go in regulation time. He got at least 2. He could have gotten some more. We'll get the penalty calls for you. The Blues have gathered around to see whether there's going to be an additional minor to them, but 19 seconds left. Teams can't pull off a 3-goal ploy in that time.
No, won't matter now.
Probert gets the extra minor. 2 for a high stick and 4 for roughing to Probert. Stevens gets 2 for cross-checking and 2 for roughing. Brian Murray's question marks have been replaced by exclamation points in this one, haven't they?
In a big way. In a very big way. But there is a guy that was not a question mark, and we had pointed out in our open, I really felt that the series would be decided by the superstar players. When you look at their respective offensive strengths, if the Blues do not have Hull and Oates, and if the Red Wings do not have Yzerman and Fedorov going, simply isn't going to happen. Well, Hull has done his share tonight, but defensively, the Blues really uncharacteristically have let down. In the forwards and defensemen's defense, the goaltending hasn't been great for St. Louis, and that has been something that was steady all season long.
Well, here's a chance for Fedek with 12 seconds to go. Cranks one, save Jablonski. Rebound, finesse to the front. Still they scrap for it, and Shuchuk was trying his best to work it free for Fedek to have another try, but the Red Wings converted on all the tries they needed in this one. A splendid 60 minutes from the goalkeeper, Tim Chevalier, on out. And another surprise in Game 1 of a Stanley Cup playoff series this year.
Who said this team couldn't win on the road? Must have been me. The Red Wings won 8 road games this season, but they have come here to St. Louis in Game 1. Not only have they won, they have scored 6 goals. On the 3rd best defensive team in the National Hockey League, they have a lot to be proud of. They wanted a split here. They've already gotten it.
Final shots, 40 shots for the St. Louis Blues and 27 for Detroit. But most importantly, the Red Wings on the scoreboard with the victory 6-3. Good night from St. Louis. We'll be returning to our Sports Channel studios in just a moment. Let's pause for this regional break. You've been watching the Stanley Cup playoffs on Sports Channel.
He's a man's man who knows what a woman likes.
I'd like more.
He's the one and only Bogart.
He's looking at you, kid.
Call this number now and enjoy a nostalgic look back at one of Hollywood's all-time biggest stars in this extraordinary video library, the Bogart Collection. Get Humphrey Bogart in all his classic films.
Hip, hip, hooray! I'm a private dick on a case. Spade. That's P-A-D-E. You haven't got nerve enough to pull the trigger while I'm looking you straight in the eye.
Begin the romance with Casablanca. For the introductory price of $9.99, keep this story of love and intrigue. And another Bogart movie will follow every 6 weeks at the regular price, each in a deluxe collector's case. Don't miss the fabulous Bogart Collection from Time Life Video. To order your Casablanca video, use your credit card and call 1-800-841-0300 or send just $9.99 plus $3.23 shipping to the address on your screen.
Morning, Mrs. Jenks. Got a Western Union here for Mr. Jenks. Hope it's good news.
Oh, it is. It's that $1-a-week life insurance for veterans that Tom and I called about.
And if you're a veteran, age 50 to 69, just call this toll-free number, because now you can get in on this $1-a-week term life insurance plan, exclusively for veterans. It's a great value for both veterans and spouses. Your $1-a-week rate can never go up. That's guaranteed. And your benefits, well, they never go down. Plus, there's no medical exam to take, and there's no waiting period. Once you're covered, it's from the very first day for the full amount.
What do I do, make a phone call?
Just call this toll-free number, $1 a week. It's one of the best ways going to give your family the extra security you want them to have. Call now.
Veterans, call 1-800-841-0300 for free information from Veterans Life Insurance Company. That's 1-800-841-0300. Call now.
Bob Papa back in New York. We hope you enjoyed the victory. The Red Wings had over the Blues the final 6-3 in Game 1 of that Norris Division semifinal matchup. Let's get you caught up on the scores on this first night of Campbell Conference play. And of the second period, Chicago leads Minnesota by a 3-2 score in what has been a wild physical game. Meanwhile, Edmonton is taking on Calgary, and right now, second period, Edmonton leads it by a 2-1 score. Peter Klima gets the goal, Asa Tikkanen the assist. Tikkanen also has a goal, Al McInnes with the goal goal, a power play goal for Calgary. Now the Kings and Canucks are going at it. Dave Capuano gave Vancouver a 1-0 lead. Then Sergio Momesso carries over the Kings line, and he'll find Igor Larionov. And Larionov skates in right down the middle of the Kings defense, beats Kelly Rudy. That made it 2-0 in favor of Vancouver. But the Kings will get one back. Watch Tomas Sandstrom simply undress the Vancouver defense. And now you see Sandstrom come in, and he's able to beat Troy Campbell. And Bob Kudelski has just scored for the Los Angeles Kings, and that makes that score 2-2 in period number 1. Now we'll take you out to the Great Western Forum. Here's Jiggs McDonald and Eddie Westfall.
We welcome those of you who have been watching the game between the St. Louis Blues and the Detroit Red Wings. As you see, a 2-2 tie. Vancouver got off to a quick lead. Capuano and then Larionov making it 2-0. Sandstrom and Kudelski have scored for the Kings. Kudelski